Welcome back to the Brennan Page. I'm Dwayne Page.
And this is Kyle Brennan. Today we have the luxury of speaking with Lou Petrucci. Lou is a longtime educator, having taught for over 20 years in the Three Village Central School District. During that time, Lou has been the head coach of Ward Melville High School, leading the team to a 673 lifetime winning percentage, having won 6 League One championships and a Long Island championship.
That's a lot of championships.
Lou has helped over 90 players reach college baseball and has coached Steven Matz, Anthony Kay, and Ben Brown, all big leaguers.
That's some big league talent.
Lou is also an author. He wrote Heart of the Hide, a children's book that has sold over 6,000 copies and is publicly displayed in over 200 libraries across the country.
And my personal library.
Lou is also a former sports reporter and professional umpire. He is an award winner, a recipient of the Steve Lembo Award for contributions to baseball. And finally, Lou is the coach of both Dwayne and myself. I played for Lou in high school. Dwayne, I believe you played for him in travel summer ball. I've also had the luxury of working with Lou as his assistant coach for 1 year. And Lou can come across as a controversial person, as a animated, extremely passionate leader from the third base coaching box during games. The one thing I always tell people about Lou is that I've never seen someone do so much for his players and put so much of his life into the players that he coaches. And I've also never seen Lou put the wrong player on the field.
Yeah, I've had quite an interesting perspective in regards to Lou Petrucci because I've experienced him as an opponent as a player, playing high school baseball against Ward Melville. I have had him as a summer coach, and just right off the bat, it's like you're playing against him as a high school kid, and you're like, dude, what the fuck is this guy? He's wild. But his energy, like I've always had an appreciation for people that have that kind of an energy towards the game. And when I got to play summer baseball for him for, I believe it was a couple summers, I had so much fun. You get the sense that you have a guy that has your back as a player, which always feels good. Somebody that genuinely cares about you. And he connects well with your family as well, in my personal experience. And then getting to coach against him when I was coaching high school baseball was a treat because, you know, people who don't know him just play right into his game, and it's funny. But again, it can be the respect that I have for him as a competitor is quite high because like I think he has an understanding for the way things need to be done at times on the field and the energy that is required to be involved in this game. And then after the game, he'll have a conversation with anybody. And I really like to see what he has done, you know, personally for me as a player and as a coach, and now as a friend, honestly. Because that's kind of what our relationship has evolved into. So I'm very grateful that we had him on for this episode. It could have been probably 6 hours longer. I'm excited for people to hear this, and I'm excited to have him on again because I'm sure he'll be wanting to come back on. And last thing I want to say too before I kick it back to you, Kyle, I just wanted to wish a happy Father's Day to the dads out there.
Yes, sir. Happy Father's Day. So one quick note before we get going. We recorded this a few weeks ago back when I was on the road. I packed up the podcast equipment, brought it with me. I did it out of a hotel room. The internet connection, as you all can imagine, was not great. So we had some connectivity issues. So there's a lot of like stops, and then we play the transition. I smoothed it over as best I could, but just anticipate that a little bit. But happy Father's Day. Look forward to this one, and we'll see you guys soon. Enjoy. Nice shirt, Lou. Ben sent that to you?
Thanks, buddy. I got it from Ben. No, he gave it to me. I went to watch him 2 years ago. I went to Des Moines, Iowa, to watch Ben pitch, and the start before he got hurt. He strained his oblique, so I didn't get to see him in Iowa. But I went to Des Moines, and I had the trip of my life. I went to Field of Dreams. It was unbelievable. The movie site. It was I rented a car from Des Moines, and I went to Dyersville, Iowa. It was unbelievable. It was like going down 347 all the way to 120 miles, 185 miles away. So I
Wow.
went to the Field of Dreams movie site. I went in the cornfield. And I came out. So I was kind of happy, but it was kind of good.
It's
I
hard
came
to
out.
do.
You know what I mean?
That's so
Sorry?
cool.
I said that's
You
hard
It's
to
hard to
do.
come out of the
You guys ever
cornfields.
been there?
No.
No.
Dwayne, you got to go. Kyle, you got to go with your dad. I think it's a great experience. It's your father's major impacts in your life as far as baseball goes, and I think that it's just an exciting moment to see the Field of Dreams site. And you got to go there soon because now they're marketing it, and they're building like a Lake Point, Georgia complex behind. Yeah, so it's they're
It's going to be commercialized.
it's going to be commercialized soon. Yeah, so I saw the apparatus, the field apparatus, and all the construction apparatus in the background, and it was sad to me because it's a movie site. I get it, but they're gonna make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tremendous business. You go there for free. I mean, you can pay $20 to go in the house, the Field Dreams house in the background. You can pay $20. I just want to go in the cornfield and see if I come out alive, and obviously I did. So that was exciting.
Yeah. What happens in
I
the
have
cornfield
pictures.
stays in the cornfield.
Yeah, right. And the sad part about it is the actual field. They built the field behind the movie site where they play the actual games, where they play the games like for MLB plays their games, and you see like the lights in the background, and it's so much higher because you can't play on the movie site. The site is made for movies, you know what I mean, not made for baseball,
Yeah.
But it was.
See any ghosts?
No. The only ghost I saw was me. You know what I mean? I'm the only ghost that came out of there.
Very real for us, Coach Lou, and we appreciate you joining us here today.
Come on, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I told all my friends I'm going to be on the Kyle Brennan, Dwayne Page podcast. Two former catchers, believe it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once upon a time.
So it
one
goes.
survived. You survived 2 summer seasons with me, maybe 3, I think, and Kyle survived 2 high school seasons with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have to imagine the high school experience for me was a little easier than Dwayne's summer ball experience.
I would say different. It was easy to play for Coach Lou. I'll say that much. It was very easy to play for him.
Well, I appreciate that.
But you knew every time showing up to the yard, something fun was going to happen.
Yeah, in high school, I was kind of tempered a little bit by my job and my athletic director, superintendent, human resources director. So a whole bunch of people had every eyes on me every time I made a move. So that was kind of interesting. But now baseball's still fun, I guess. I remember Dwayne's day. Kyle and his dad came into my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle was playing on a summer team, and they were moving him from catcher to first base and catcher to first base, and Kyle needed to catch more. So we talked to Titans, and that's Kyle's career took off from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember we came to see you, and like the thought at the time, like around travel baseball, was that like you can't be a tall catcher, you have to be short so you could be quick. And we had a catcher on this summer team that you're talking about that was a decent catcher, more of a football player, but he hit well. And I could play first, so I was just playing first and not catching, even though I was the better defender. And the logic was like, oh, you can't be too tall or whatever. And then so we were like, Lou, what do you think? And Lou pulls up like Hofstra's roster, Stony Brook's roster, like St. John's, like who you just start listing guys, and it's like, oh, 6'3", oh, 6'2", oh, 6'1". And then you got on the phone right in front of us and called a bunch of travel teams, and I remember that. It's a special day.
Well, listen, again, you know what? You had the will and desire to get better, right? And I think that you and your dad were not going to settle. And like so many travel, I hate to criticize travel baseball. I'm a big part of it, but I was. But like the thing with travel baseball is that organization that you played for is now defunct. And it became defunct when the kid graduated from high school or got to be 18. And so many travel organizations, they disappear because, listen, one reason or another, they start up because they're, a son's not playing. And I get it. I understand. I mean, I don't have kids of my own. I'm very lucky. Now I don't have children of my own, but God gave me three pros. So for all the sons I don't have, I get to watch three guys that are playing big league baseball. So how bad could that be, right? I mean, like it's the greatest thrill as a coach, seeing like guys like you and Dwayne coach at high levels. Dwayne's going to be a great college head coach one day. I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm counting on Dwayne to be a college head coach so I can come watch the games and chase foul balls when Dwayne's managing his team. You know what I mean? And you're going to be in the big leagues, Kyle. You're going to be. I mean, you guys want to hear this, obviously, but you're going to be in the big leagues, Kyle. You're going to be in a big league dugout, coaching some guys, and Kyle Brennan, hitting instructor. You're going to be there because you guys have been determined to make baseball fun. And when baseball becomes fun, good things happen. When it becomes a job, then the job takes itself over. You worry about the money, you worry about the income. How am I going to do this? Joe Wadika's statement, baseball keeps you poor. It really is a true statement. I mean, I can't imagine anything else.
I think there's definitely a lot of truth to that statement. Baseball keeps you poor, but I think some perspective from myself is it has enriched me in meeting people like yourself, people like Kyle, and I completely agree with you in the fun aspect of it. I remember, coaching travel baseball with Wagenstein, with Mark, and just being like showing up to the field really early at Staten Island and saying to the guys,
God.
our challenge today is to have more fun than the other team. If we have more fun than the other team, we'll win. 8 a.m. game in Staten Island. Like, let's have more fun than the other team. We'll win the game.
Those are long rides to Staten Island.
Yeah.
There's no easy way to get to Staten Island. There's no easy way. I don't care what kind of boat you have. There's no easy way to get to Staten Island.
No,
And
not at
now
all.
it's worse. You got to remember because, Kyle, you're 30 years old now. You hit 30. You broke the speed limit.
Yep, broke the speed limit.
And a boy, you broke the speed limit. Good.
Can't drive in a school zone anymore.
100% right. 100% right. And Dwayne will get there soon. He'll be there soon. He's around the corner.
Yeah,
But everybody has a car now. It's so easy to get an automobile. Like, you don't need credit. You don't need a deposit. You can lease a vehicle for $250 a month. So what happens is everybody has a car, and the cars go on the road. 18-year-olds are driving from here to Manhattan. If they're not taking the train. 18 years old, I was still walking from my house to baseball fields and walking to my summer job. You know what I mean? I was 18 years. I didn't have a car. So I had a real job. I was 22 years old. So, it's different today. It's everybody's got a car, and so traffic is impacting travel baseball. It makes travel baseball better, obviously, because now the 18-year-old, 17-year-old can drive himself to the games. Mom and dad don't have to drive anymore. So, kids are playing on multiple teams. It's just, it's. I think travel baseball on Long Island, I would say, has diminished the ability of kids because even when Kyle was around, Kyle, did you ever bat in a lineup when there were 11, 12 guys?
No.
Dwayne, you did. No?
Probably like 11, 10 guys, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think
maybe when I was like 12.
Yeah, I think that nowadays, because there's so many travel teams, and it is a business. Let's call it what it is. It is a business, and the kid pays to be on the team. $3,000-$4,000, whatever he pays, and the kid's got to play because those 10, 11 hitters fund the team. And those kids play, and in normal situations, the only 9 batters bat, maybe a DH, maybe 10 at the most. I mean, it's our favorite line, Dwayne. I told Greg. I saw Greg the other day at the Connect Quad Station North game. Greg, You want AJ Patera to bat this weekend too? You know what I mean? Give AJ an at bat. And I get it. The kid pays his money. Father wants to see him hit on Father's Day. I understand that. But, I think that we're losing the competitive nature of baseball. And I think the kids I see coming up are not competitors.
Yeah, it goes in it. Listen, there are 13, 14 man lineups. It trickles into middle school baseball now where you're seeing like shifts on middle school baseball teams where kids are assigned to play an inning and a half, 2 innings a game, which is insane. And I think also, I mean, I'd love to hear you comment on this too. The concept of competing for a position, which we've talked about with a bunch of our guests on here. Like you're on a team and you claim to be a shortstop, but there's a better shortstop there. You either need to learn another position or become a better shortstop than that guy who is ahead of you. Whereas nowadays, you could just move teams or have, your parent create another team.
It's prevalent. And, even we just talked about Kyle. No offense to the guy who ran Kyle's team when we had that conversation. I think it was in ninth grade, I think. That team is run by 2 parents, which is great. Great that parents are getting involved and helping their kids play baseball, but we're losing perspective. And I think that kids are playing on multiple teams and they're not playing age-appropriate baseball. So, I went to a game the other day. I got a kid coming into ninth grade. He's playing 13U baseball. I don't see how that's going to prepare him next spring to possibly compete for a spot on the varsity when he's playing 13U, where the ball is barely being hit out of the infield, and he's striking out 10 guys a game, and 4 of the strikeouts come against the 10, 11, 12 hitters on the other team. I just, to me, it's a trend that I don't see reversing itself. I don't see the era come back where you're going to bat 9 guys and use pinch hitters and substitutes. I think the worst rule in high school baseball, by the way, is the reentry rule. I think it's the worst rule ever.
It takes the strategy out. It takes the
100%
strategy
right.
out, and it takes roles away from guys.
100% right. Yeah, I think they should eliminate that rule. I think college baseball, that rule's fine, But I think high school rules, re-enter, it gets guys more playing time. I disagree. What it does is it gets guys less playing time because now you pick guys, and I do it too, obviously. I got guys that are pinch runners. They pinch run, they come out. Pinch run, they come out. If you got a pinch run and then put the kid in the outfield, he would get better. And then you can say to me, well, Lou, why'd you do that? Well, I want to win. Why should I be the one not to use the rules to our advantage at Ward Melville when other teams are using it? So, it got to the point where, Kyle, how about this one? You like this one, Kyle. When you like this too. If the pitcher is batting in the lineup as pitcher and then the catcher, you can run for the pitcher and the catcher with 2 different players.
They did that this year, right?
Yes. Last year too.
So it's like kind of like a designated runner in a sense.
Yes, exactly right. So, and they say it's a speed up rule, and I say no, it's a slow down rule because the kid's got to get his helmet on, got to run out to first, talk to the first base coach, got to make sure they know the signs, God forbid, and then the catcher sits in the dugout, gets takes a drink, I don't know for what reason, and that catcher does not get better at base running. That catcher doesn't get ready to start the inning on time because he's busy fooling around, thinks it's a break. I don't know what the purpose is. And then what coach is doing now, it's a great move. Let's say you're at the top of the first and you've got a kid that's slow. You put player John Doe, list him as catcher. He gets on, running for the catcher. He doesn't have to catch an inning in the top of the first to run for the catcher. Could you imagine?
So they'll list him as the catcher and then defensively change the guy. Wow.
Yeah, in the bottom of the first. And you know what? It's manipulating the rule. It's like I had a big argument with this. I don't know if he's a highly respected orthopedist or not, but when they put the pitch count rules in, and he said to me, Lou, these pitch count rules are for safety. I went, safety? Do you realize that now you put a pitch count rule in, you've allowed the coach to abuse the pitcher twice as much as he would normally? What do you mean? Well, the kid can throw 30 pitches on Monday, start the game Tuesday, and throw another 120. How's that provide safety to the pitcher?
Yeah, because it gives like a justification for things like that because there's a number attached. Yeah.
And forget about the 30 pitches he throws in the
But
game.
also, the pitch count,
Let's say he throws.
the concept of the pitch count's good in the sense that you're like limiting some sort of like abuse or like going way more than you should, but it only applies if the kid's built up for it. Like if the kid throws 30 pitches every week and then you say, all right, he can go 50 this time, like, okay. But then if it's like, hey, he's allowed to go 50, but he threw a bullpen 10 days ago and he's not prepared, and you throw 50 pitches, like, yeah, you're under the limit, but the kid's shot. So like it doesn't work as a blanket rule.
But Kyle, you're in professional baseball, right? Could you imagine if you took a kid, and you got kids there. I'm sure you got some 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds at Fayetteville. Can you imagine if you took a first-round pick in Fayetteville? Hey, you're going to throw 30 pitches today to save this game, but tomorrow you're going to start. And you're in professional baseball. And in the major league level, those teams want to win more than anybody. But I'm sure understand minor league baseball still for developmental purposes still, right? But could you imagine if we took Jacob deGrom and said, Jacob, you're going to throw Monday, you're going to close game on Monday and start Tuesday. And they want to win. But that doesn't go on. So in high school sports, and even in amateur baseball here and in travel ball, they do it all the time. And these kids don't have the proper training. They don't have the proper rehab conditions. They're not grown physically yet to handle all that. And yet we continue to see pitchers throwing this amount of pitches in a week, in months' time. I've seen guys in high school with 12 appearances in 20 games. How do you have 12 appearances in 20 games? You have nobody else to pitch?
Yeah, and you were kind of about to talk about this too. It's more than the pitches. It's the warm-up. It's the bullpen going into the game. It's the pitches in between. It's a lot of throwing. It really is.
Kid might be playing shortstop too.
Yeah, yeah. It's really no mystery to me why we're seeing so many of these arm injuries. And I get so many different visceral reactions, and a lot of it goes to players nowadays are just really soft. They don't do enough. They don't this. They don't that. And I don't feel I can align myself with that.
I watched a kid. Listen, everybody says, "Oh, no, Lou, all your big guys have Tommy John." Yeah, Tommy John is a career saver, not a career ender. Steven Matz had Tommy John. Anthony Kay had Tommy John. Ben Brown had Tommy John. But they're in the big leagues. That's a career-saving procedure for them. When you see 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds getting the brace, Tommy John surgery, it's partly because of abuse and poor mechanics, right? But now you combine abuse with poor mechanics. Now you have a lot of arm injuries, and I think that the trend's not going to go away because people think that you can throw all these pitches in games, stress pitches, mind you, and he's young, he can handle it. No, can't handle it. And I hate to see a young kid get hurt like that. Promising kids, but listen, the pros get Tommy John because it's career saving, and they throw 90 plus miles an hour. A guy's throwing 80, not getting Tommy John surgery. They just pack it up and go home. That's the old days. But those days came later, And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but all I know is this: is that like if you take care of the players, the pitchers, and you monitor them and you work with them and you don't abuse them, they can throw baseballs and softballs when they're 30, right? Playing softball leagues, playing travel baseball, still enjoy the great game of baseball. But once you can't throw, you can't play. To me, it's sad.
I do remember you, at least with with Kay, like not letting him throw curveballs. This is best
Yeah.
pitcher on Long Island, and he threw probably 15 or 20 curveballs all season, and it was good. It's arguably as a
You
big leaguer, it's
you
arguably his best pitch now. Didn't throw it in high
you
school.
caught him. You caught him, Kyle. Listen. First of all, we had a discussion with Bobby Kay, his father, and his brother was a good pitcher too. Bobby Kay was as good as Anthony was in high school, but I think Bobby was different era, right? But Bobby had a great career at CW Post. And when I went to saw Anthony in 7th grade, I watched this little skinny lefty at Murphy. Were you on that team then, Kyle? No, you were in 9th grade then,
Um,
right?
no, he was on. Well, I would have been there in I don't know what year it was. 2008 would have been 8th grade, so that would have been him in 7th grade. But except I was hurt that year, so I wasn't catching him. You didn't know me then.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, but I go watch a Murphy game. I watch this skinny lefty. I'm like, holy cow, this kid's tremendous. And he's just like he threw the ball moved and he was fluid, free and easy, good athlete. He played with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. So and then I saw you had a good changeup back in even in 7th grade. He threw a changeup, you know, and so we got to high school in 9th grade. We started him in 9th grade, Anthony K. And I said, Anthony, what do you want to do? So I want to be a professional baseball player. I said, good. We're not gonna throw curveballs till we need to. Nobody signed you for a great curveball. And Bob Hirschfield, the great coach at New York Tech, said to me, another way to make your fastball better is to throw it. And throwing too many curveballs doesn't allow your fastball to mature, develop. And Anthony, developed. Yeah, listen. Anthony, Steven Matz would have made the big leagues if they played at Central Islip High School. Let's just call it what it is. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what team they played on. Amityville, Central Islip. They could have played at Santa Mauritius. They could have played anywhere. Those kids were making the big leagues no matter what. They had the ability of God's gift. Left-handed, they threw strikes, and they were competitors. But I think Anthony was so advanced at his age with his changeup that allowed him. We didn't have to throw curveballs, and we had a good team behind him. Anthony was, I think, 6-1 or 7-1 his freshman year, throwing 78 miles an hour. I think, Kyle, you were the catcher.
No, I was still in JV when he was in
Oh,
ninth
another
grade.
bad. Oh,
Yeah, he
another
leap
bad
he,
move,
he
right?
leapfrogged me for a year.
But I'm saying, then you caught Anthony in 2011, 10, no, 11 and 12 then, right?
11 and
You caught
12. Yep.
Anthony
Yeah.
11 and 12, and Anthony was dominant. As a matter of fact, I think 2012 was when he didn't allow an earned run all season.
No. Yeah, I think it was 4 runs, 0 earned.
Yeah. Dwayne, can you imagine 4 runs?
No.
We let up 8 runs in innings 6 times this year in 20 games.
Completely different team, man.
Not a completely different era. Believe it or
Yeah.
not. Talking about 12, 13 years ago, right? But Kyle,
Yeah.
you caught him then, right? You caught him then. What do you recognize as a catcher that separated Anthony from everybody else as a junior in your senior year? Okay, you were going to
Yeah.
Buffalo. Wait,
hmm
you ever hear the story about Kyle? Kyle went to Buffalo. Did you ever hear this story?
I've heard stories about how he got there and his road to becoming a UB catcher, UB
Well,
catching machine.
I don't know.
I've heard those
I don't
stories.
know if you heard this one, but we were supposed to play a game, and it got rained out. And the University of Buffalo coach came down, and we were able to get the gym. So we got Kyle to hit in the gym, throw the ball across the Ward Melville gymnasium, 6 or 7 times. And next thing you know, we're at Outback Steakhouse. Jim Brennan's paying for everything, you know. And Kyle's going to University of Buffalo. I'm sure it's a lot more to that, Kyle. You know the whole story, but I think, but
That's how that
Kyle,
day went. That's correct.
yeah, because wait, we had a rain out, so we had to go in the gym. Kyle hit off the tee. They threw some BP to Kyle. Kyle was a machine back then. He threw the ball across the gym floor. Didn't bounce any. Next thing you know, Buffalo coach says, "Hey, you're coming to Buffalo." I don't know what the scholarship deal was. I had no idea. But Kyle went to play Division I baseball, and I think that today, I don't know if that happens anymore. I don't know. I think Kyle was a senior. You were a senior at the time, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It was. Geez, that was like mid-April of my senior year. I still didn't know where I was going.
Yeah, mid-April. That's what I'm saying. Like you almost missed the early. You definitely missed the early enrollment period, but
Hmm.
you almost missed all the spring visits. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it just shows you that, like, if the coach likes you and he wants you, you'll play. Kyle, you started a lot of games your freshman year, didn't you?
Early on, I was split like 50-50 with a junior transfer we had come in. And then defensively, we were similar at the time. And then I wasn't hitting at all. And the other guy was getting on base pretty well. And he got along with some of the pitching staff better than I did. So he ended up catching once we hit conference, it was pretty much him. But then my sophomore year, same thing. We were both catching, but at that point, I was clearly the better defender, but wasn't hitting much. But it was the trade off. And then when I started to hit a little bit, then I caught from there on out. But
So you had a great career.
yeah, it was a good experience. You did ask about Anthony Kay in high school. I didn't know. I couldn't have told you the difference between him and someone else that was also good and left-handed and why. Like at the time, the projections, I didn't know any of that yet. But I just remember catching him and the days where I was like, he's off. Like he doesn't have the feel for everything. Like it's just not there. Granted, it was against high school pitching, but like he'd still be dominant. And if they got to him a little bit, he just got better. That was like in hindsight, that stood out to me about him. Whereas if they got a run or like they got someone on base from like a bloop single or something, then they stole second, and then the kid scores on an error or something, and the whole dugout's like yelling at him. He'd be yelling back at the dugout, and then next thing you know, he's got 7 punches in a row on fastballs up and away and change-ups off of it.
Yeah, well, listen, one of the greatest competitors we ever had here, and it's no surprise how well he's doing in Japan. I think he's had like 7 or 8 starts. He's gone 7 innings in all of them. It's just it's incredible. I don't care what league you're in, professional, summer league, pro baseball. You can go out there and throw 7 innings every week. That's that's testament to his ability to compete and get people out when he needs to. It's fun to watch. I mean, I don't understand Japanese, but I hear the noise in the background, and Anthony's funny. He's a character himself, and it's just fun to watch follow Yokohama Bay Stars on Twitter and hit Google Translate 52 times to figure out what's going on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was fun to watch. He was fun to compete against because that's the lens that I looked at it through. The 2013 county championship playing, or so, yeah, 2013 county championship playing against him was, we're going into that last game and it's like, shit, we got this freaking. I mean, at the time, if you would have told me then he was going to be a future big leaguer, I would have believed you because we scrimmaged you guys earlier that year and I got to see him pitch against us, and then seeing him in the county championship game, and I actually did get to catch him in a bullpen, and it was just like surgical, And to your guys' point too, I know you're talking about him having a very good curveball. That changeup was really impressive too. It was just like pinpoint accuracy, so it was a lot of fun to get to catch him those couple of times.
But Anthony is exceptional athlete. Like he was a very good basketball player too, and he could fly. I mean, one game, Anthony Kay, I think Kyle, you graduated in 2013. He went 4 for 4 against Brentwood, and did not hit a ball out of the infield. Ground ball to third, beat it out. Ground ball to second, beat it out. Ground ball to first, beat it out. Ground ball to shortstop, beat it out. It was incredible. He was that. He's not getting bad lefty. He's that fast. And Anthony, he has his one hit in Japan Pro Baseball. I think they gave him the ball, so I made sure I texted
Oh, he
him
got
about
one.
that.
He was. We were working out
Infield
together.
hit too.
We were
Infield
working
hit
out
too, by the
together
way.
in the off season, in the same gym, and he he goes. He's like, KB, I need your help. He's like, I went 0 for 27 this year. We got to start working.
He's the best. I mean, like, he's a great competitor. So it's not a surprise that he takes pride. He takes pride in his at bats. I'm sure of that. I mean, listen, Steven Matz is probably you watched him in his debut in 2015.
Yeah, you were there.
I
They
knew
interviewed
Steven
you.
was going to hit. Yeah, well, they listen. Steven. I think Steven was another great competitor because a great Steven Matz story, Dwayne and Kyle, was in 2009 before it really came up, in the ranks of being a pro baseball player. We used to have the 6 a.m. morning workouts, and Steve would be in there. It'd be like 7:30, 7:40. Matty, what are you doing? He said, "Oh no, coach, you don't understand. I'm heading to Coastal Carolina. I'm gonna two-way there. I'm gonna play first base too." Okay. And he would stay and hit and hit and hit, and he was just he loved baseball to the point where anything he did with baseball, he enjoyed it. Where even in practice, he would take ground balls at first base without a glove, just so he just had fun doing it. And he would take ground balls without a glove, and
That's
he'd
on that
be,
old field before the
yeah, on the
turf.
old field
That
too.
was tough.
It was a landmine, but Steven was like, I'm gonna two-way, and I really believe this. And I said to Steven, I said to anybody who cares to listen, that if Steven Matz did not make it as a pitcher, he would have made it to the big leagues as a first baseman. That's what a great first baseman he was. That's what a great competitor he was. And he was a great hitter in high school. And listen, the guy got 3 big league home runs batting every 6th day, right? I'm afraid to think what he would do if he got in the cage and worked with hitting instructors. Big league hitting instructors are beyond imaginable how good they are now. Because think about this, Kyle. Everybody's afraid to run the starting pitcher out there for the third at bat in a row in the game. Third at bat, right? So what are those hitting guys doing? What are they doing, Kyle? Like, are they watching video? Are they just seeing the pitcher too often? Like, how are these starters not able to get the guy out 3 times in a game?
Well, usually they have probably 2 really good pitches and a third one that they can that's pretty good and they can command fairly well. But then by the time the guy's seen it once or twice and you have an idea of what his strategy is, whether or not he's like, hey, he's starting all lefties off with a slider first, or hey, the changeups, we thought it was a little bit more like down, but it's a little bit more away, so I'm going to look for it at a certain part of the zone. And it's like by the time you've seen it the third time, I don't know, you just get it a little bit more.
It's ridiculous, and like these guys are throwing 98, 97. Listen, I watch Ben religiously, obviously, and Ben's throwing 97 miles an hour. I mean, Kyle, Ben when he was a little kid. You know, Dwayne, you saw Ben when he was younger. I mean, the fact that Ben, 33rd round pick, made to the big leagues is a testament to Ben's work ethic. And, Steven and Anthony Kay all have a big part in Ben's success as well, because, I think Steven inspired the next generation of Ward Melville baseball players to get better at baseball. And, I think. I think baseball needs more of that. We need more people to inspire these younger kids to follow suit and keep working at it.
Ben
Don't
always
let
impressed me before I knew he was even a decent pitcher. Back when he was like 8th, 9th, probably like 9th, 10th grade, you would do those like winter workouts where you'd have 10, 11, 12-year-old teams come in and then the high school kids would run it.
Sure.
And usually the way that goes is you have like a coach or two that's sort of getting everything going. You have 18 kids standing off to the side talking to each other, high school players not doing anything, and then you have like a kid or two that's front tossing or putting a ball on a tee and they're bored silly. But Ben would actually run the pitching station. I remember this because I was in college or soon after I'd come back.
Sure, yeah.
And
Well, yeah.
and Ben would it's a 10th grader that would be leading, kids in late elementary school or early middle, probably like 5th, 6th grade. But Ben would take him through a throwing progression. He'd go over and coach guys, and he'd if kids couldn't throw strikes and they would be upset, he'd go over and help. And he was doing that before he was anyone.
Right, right. But I think that's testament to Ben's personality. And listen, you were good. You were good too, Kyle. You said a generation of catchers. in front of you that made Ward Melville a good baseball team. I always say all the time that inner diamond of baseball, the center fielder, shortstop, second baseman, catcher, pitcher, those five players, those four players are a testament to how good the team's going to be. That diamond within the diamond, I like to call it. Center field, shortstop, second base, catcher, pitcher, those five guys make your whole team. The guys in the corners, okay, well, we can find guys in the corners, but those five guys in the middle separates winning and losing 80% of the time. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, Joe Flynn's going to disagree with me, but when Joe Flynn was on the mound, we didn't lose too many games either. But he was good third baseman too. I don't want to get Joe upset at me. He boxes now. He's a boxer now, so I don't want Joe to hit me. You know what I mean? Have you seen Joe fight?
I haven't, but I'm picturing it.
That's cool.
That's a scary sight.
Yeah, that is scary.
Joe Flynn's scary sight. Remember, Kyle, were you on the team when he was a freshman?
Yep. Yeah,
were you on the team? Right? Dwayne, this is no joke. I'm going to Smithtown East today, too. I'm going to watch a playoff game. I'm not used to watching playoff games, but now I have to watch them because we stink. But anyway, Joe Flynn, remember that, Kyle? His first at bat in ninth grade, we played Smithtown East. He had an opposite field home run. Dwayne, opposite field home run at Smithtown East. Kenny Clee says, I never seen anybody do that. Senior. I said, this kid was, Joe was special. Joe was like, if he didn't hurt his back, I think he would have been a pro baseball player as well. But when Joe was freshman year at Princeton, he was a two-way player. He started on Sunday and played third base on, Saturday. And then Sunday he started game 4 of the Ivy League played 4 games, like doubleheader Saturday, doubleheader Sunday. And Joe Flynn started game 4 as a freshman, pitching wise. And I still, like everybody says, like, who's the greatest player, Ward Melville? I'd have to say, Captain Joe Flynn. What he did for 4 years consistently. I have to say Joe Flynn. I know guys are gonna get upset about that, but I can't argue with Joe Flynn's success. So Ward Melville, I really don't care what they say.
Yeah, dude, his sophomore campaign in the playoffs was insane.
It was a 16-year-old kid taking the team on his back and carrying us every single playoff game. Listen, Anthony Kay pitched great, but he still listen. I never seen any team win a game 0-0. And that year, Joe Flynn hit a home run. He had 5 home runs in 4 playoff games.
Yep, I was gonna say I felt and in the county finals he hit that the grand slam too, which was was a bomb.
It was ridiculous to watch, and it was just amazing how a sophomore could do that. And listen, the testament to Joe Flynn. He never let the game get too big, and he just Kyle, even his freshman year, he played second base because we pitched him game 1. I think we started Joe game 1, so he DH game 2, and he played second base game 3. Whatever. He had a good career then.
That was part of your gamesmanship, to take your best pitcher, throw him last, and then take the freshman, start us off.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know if it's gamesmanship, but I think that Joe was. I think like even Anthony Kay, his freshman year, we started him game 1 too, and Anthony was 7-1 his freshman year. And I look back at the records like a few years ago, and I couldn't believe that even Anthony was throwing 78 miles an hour, 77 miles an hour as a ninth grader, had 10, 11 strikeouts 5 or 6 times. It was incredible, But listen, we had good baseball teams. You know what I mean? We had great competitors, win games.
I've never heard you claim to be a pitching guru of any sort, and you've had so many good pitchers play for you over the years. I remember the other day I saw you were watching a playoff game, and you'd mentioned a couple other guys, whether it was through Pavco or any travel organization team you've coached with or been around. What is it that you see or have seen in these pitchers that makes them so good? Because you're talking about Anthony Kay pitching with 78 miles an hour and having the kind of record he did and having those kind of strikeout games. Whereas nowadays, I feel like kids are in ninth grade throwing 78 miles an hour. And first of all, they're not celebrated by the people around them at all, which is incredibly discouraging. And it makes them feel like they need to do something with their velocity, and it places an emphasis on velocity. And listen, there is an importance to have velocity, but you just talked about a guy who's a big leaguer, who's making a good amount of money over in Japan, who was throwing 78 miles an hour and having a lot of success at the varsity level in ninth grade. So what is it that you saw in guys like Kay with that 78 miles an hour, or the other kinds of guys you've had over the years that made them successful?
Well, Anthony was a great competitor, and Kyle, you know that. Dwayne, we have to fight Anthony sometimes. In like we have our well, we used to have our illegal Sunday afternoon rock picking up practices on Sunday. We take BP. It was a fun day. Guys let the pitchers hit, and Anthony K would be at shortstop, turning two. You know what I mean? And he loved baseball so much that the game came easy to him. And as a pitcher, he was a great competitor. And I really believe that Anthony would throw his fastball for strikes, and Kyle said the changeup was ridiculous. And I think that when the lights turned on, Anthony K always got better. Anthony K won 20 games at Ward Melville from ninth grade to 12th grade. 20 games. And there was a coach before Coach Muscarella who won 20 games in 5 years at Ward Melville. Anthony did it by himself. And his junior year, he had like 6 or 7 no decisions because I wouldn't let him go more than 100 pitches. I think that was important too. Dwayne, I think that you can't kids want to throw the radar gun now, right? And everybody's got a pocket radar. Everybody's got one of those little pocket radars. I don't know if they're accurate or not. I have no idea. But as kids continue to throw for velocity instead of for competitiveness, you're going to have arm injuries, and you're going to have kids overthrowing. And we always joked around at Ward Melville. The goal was who can get the 2 strikes the fastest, right? Can you get the 2 strikes? Make the hitter feel uncomfortable. And when Anthony K pitched, I don't know anybody except a kid at Connecticut felt comfortable. I don't know who that kid was. I forgot his name now. You're going to remember it.
Yeah.
He loved Anthony K. He
Yeah,
hit
he
a home
did.
run. He hit the balls. Kyle, the pitch that Greg Coleman caught over the left field fence. Anthony K threw an 0-2 fastball. It was over his head, and this kid hit a home run. What was his name, Kyle?
Brandon Morse.
Yeah, we remember Bob Ambrosini was a great friend. You know what I mean? God rest his soul. But we scrimmaged Connecticut one year in 2013, maybe 4 or 5 times, and Anthony would get we do Anthony be his bullpen day. He'd go out there and throw innings, and this kid Morris kept hitting home runs off him, no matter what he threw.
Insane. It was the same exact scenario too. We're in the scrimmage. I'm on third base. Don't know how the hell I got there, but I was on third base, and this kid who we brought up for the scrimmage, like he wasn't at the time, he wasn't an everyday varsity starter either. And I'm standing on third base. Kay's pitching. This kid Brandon Morse is up, and I'm like, all right, dude, like you're getting some experience off of a good pitcher right now. And he turns him around, like pull side, hits a bomb off him. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then same thing in the county final. I'm on third base. He's up again. Home run. I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Well, still, on ESPN, we called it an out, Dwayne. We called it
Yeah,
an out. I didn't get thrown out then, too. I don't know how I didn't get thrown out.
I mean, you guys were kind of beating us up, to be fair.
No, you guys were winning 4-1. Remember that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, that was before what's his name?
Flynn took over.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle, Flynn had 7 RBIs in one game. He had a 2-run home run, a grand slam, and then he walked in a run. He walked in a run. And Anthony K had 3 hits that day, too, by the way. And it shows you how good Anthony was in the big games, And I think, listen, I think, Dwayne, like you said, there's a lot of kids out there throwing 78, 80, 81, but I think they're overthrowing, throwing to the radar gun, throwing to the pocket radar. I don't know.
I've had some really good guys, too. I mean, even as they've gotten older, win some really big games throwing, between 79 and like 81 miles an hour. And it's the location, it's the competitiveness. Like you keep saying it over and over again. He's a competitor. He's a competitor. He's a competitor. I feel like that is sort of lost at the amateur level. The ability to compete, the ability to be good when the lights are on, like you said before.
Well, here's my take on that. And I, listen, my good friend is a travel baseball guru. He's very successful. He's got a league with like 390 teams on it. How many games, Dwayne and Kyle? I mean, Kyle, you don't see it anymore, but Dwayne, you see it. How many summer league games go 7 innings?
Not many, not many.
60%,
Yeah.
right?
It's probably around half to slightly above half, I'd say.
Right. And I think that what happens is when when you're playing summer league, right, and you're pitching in a summer league, you're competing against 12, 11 batters, okay? And you know that when you get to the bottom of the lineup, you're going to get those guys out. So I think that if you have to work harder to get that number one hitter out 2 times, 3 times, maybe you get better. But when you're striking out the 10, 11, 12 hitters and you're getting away with it and it's an hour 50 time limit and the two hitter at the end of a tournament it's got like 8 at bats in 3 games. I don't know. I don't know what we're teaching kids. I don't know. I don't know how we expect kids to get better when they're losing at bats because kids pay money to generate revenue for the owners of businesses, or you know, look at how many travel teams there are. It's mind boggling how many travel organizations there are all over the country. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, and
business.
it is, and I think part of it
Get it?
is the league play, which a lot of the normal, I won't say normal team, but most teams that are playing league play, it's emphasized, it's generally accepted between players and coaches that that's the time. Because I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in tournament, because it does happen in tournament, but league play, it's like emphasized that that's the time where you're going to be batting 12 guys, and the importance of the game is not there. Whereas, I'm playing in a fall league for Coach Ambrosini for the Connecticut team, and every game is emphasized. It's every game is we need to win. We got to play the game the right way. Every lineup is structured with a 9 guy lineup. So I think you bring up some very good points that these innings, a lot of these innings, a lot of these games over the summer is very very low leverage situations. There's not a lot of emphasis on those games.
Kyle, you'll like this one. This is my first summer in 27 years. I'm not coaching a summer league team or head coach. I'm gonna be assistant coach, and I'm gonna coach a 14U team. I'm gonna coach first base and tell the runners to go left. It's gonna be great for me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna pick up those 17 Bruce Bolt batting gloves over the course of a game. Under Armour, elbow guards. I'm going to be picking up all that. It's going to be great. I'll run back to the dugout. I'll be the peacemaker instead of the instigator. It's going to be a great summer for me. But Kyle, Dwayne, I'm coaching the Tri-State Arsenal, right? And the one thing I liked about Diamond Nation was that tournament was you play your pool games, and then there's a championship round. Okay, all right. I go there. I learned that, guys, no more championship round. All games are pool play. I go, what? This is the last, this is the Diamond Nation tournaments were so good because all the college guys would be there because they didn't have to cross the Throgs Bridge, right? And all the college guys would be there because now it was easy to get to Diamond Nation. And all the games were good. The games were good. They were competitive. You were playing to win your pool. And yes, maybe bad 10, 11 guys, but at least you could tell the parents and the owners of the teams that, hey, we want to win the pool. I go there, Kyle. I find out we're going to play pool play games only, 5 pool play games. I go to the ground rules. Umpire goes, Coach, you got a lineup? No. Well, 4. Playing pool games. Well, Coach, I got to know who's batting. I say, see those people over there in lawn chairs? If their kid doesn't get the hit today, they'll be yelling at me, not you. Just call the balls, call the strikes. And if you got to find some outs, be my guest. When the game's over, in an hour, 15 minutes, you won't hear a word from me. Okay, Kyle. Next day, we're gonna play. We're gonna play in this tournament that I think it's a great showcase for kids. Juniors and going into their senior year. We got a game at 10:30 in the morning at Raritan Valley Community College. Now there's nobody there. They fixed the field. You know what I mean? The guy the holes in the batter's box were like tall enough that if I stood in the batter's box, you thought I just dropped my hat in there. You know what I'm saying, Dwayne? It was the holes were so deep I couldn't find my kneecap. Anyway, it's the bottom of the fifth, right, Kyle? Kyle, the bottom of the fifth. We're playing a team from Maine. We've got second and third, 2 outs, 2-2 count. One of my good hitters is up, Nick Carnevale, because at the time, I took these group of kids, Kyle, in 2021 and 2020. I took these Ward Melville kids, and I put them on the same summer league team, because I felt like I wanted to develop them and get ready for a really good run in high school. So all those kids bought in. It was a great group of kids. Tommy Rule, Robbie Looney, Jack Friend, whole bunch of great kids.
I had that group. I actually coached a lot of them when they were like 10. And
Sure.
they had the travel team or in-house. I don't remember what it was, but they were the Patriots back when they were 10U, and I did some stuff as like their strength coach more or less in a fall.
Yeah.
So then
And
that group I had known for years.
yeah. And I took that whole group. Then we added Charlie West, and it was a really good group of kids. So Dwayne, it's the bottom of the fifth. We're winning 6-2. Okay. And it's 2-2 count, second and third, 2 outs, and the umpire comes screaming in. The game is over. The game is over. I said, sir, I understand that Kyle, time limit, hour 50. We played 5 innings. 5 innings. Hour 50 time limit. I said, sir, I know we've hit the time limit. Can I let my batter just finish the at-bat? It's a 2-2 count. I want to see if he gets a clutch hit. I want to see if he walks. I want to see if we get a tack-on run. No, coach, we can't do it. I'm going to get in trouble. I said, trouble? Trouble? We're at Raritan Valley Community College. There's a shortage of umpires. You're wearing a snapback hat, basketball sneakers on the bases. You're not getting in trouble. They're going to give you 4 more games today, and another 6 tomorrow, and another 6 on Thursday, and 6 more on Friday. You're not getting in trouble. You're at Raritan Valley Community College. The other coach says to me, Dwayne and Kyle, goes, Lou, you've won. The game's over. I says, no. We've all lost. I don't get to see if this kid get a 2-out money hit for a tack-on run. I don't get to see if he can walk. You don't get to see if your guy can strike somebody out and end the inning. We've lost here. We've lost the whole concept of why we play these games. We played 5 innings in an hour and 50 minutes.
And baseball, man, like they don't even get to see if they can come back and win the game or if your team can seal the deal,
Right. We've lost that competitive edge because, listen, I get it. It's a business, right? You can't have games going on for 2.5 hours because they're playing back-to-back games. 8:30, 10:30, 12:30. How many times you get to the game? Kyle, you remember this. You coach with Joe Pesci and all the, not Joe Pesci. What's his name?
Mike Pesci.
Mike Pesci, yeah. And you're a Diamond Nation. And the games, guys, you got to get the game on time. Get the pitcher ready. That doesn't cause arm injuries. When the kid's throwing 20 pitches in the
I remember
bullpen.
most of the strategy I wasn't the manager, so like the lineup in that was Pesci, but I remember there were times where I'd be coaching third, and depending on where we are with the pitching or whatnot, I'm like, if this inning goes 4 minutes longer, we probably won't finish the next one. Hey, take a mound visit. And you're like managing the clock as much as you were the actual strategy of it.
To me, that's sad because like I like games that are 7 innings long. And I think, oh yeah, here we are. I like games that are 7 innings long. In the college game, the college summer league was really good because we were playing 9-inning games in the ACBL, we were playing 7 inning doubleheaders. There was no time limit. Can you imagine if you put a time limit on Major League Baseball? I mean, they got the pitch clock, right? It's kind of like a time limit, right? You've got minute 30 between innings, 3 minutes between innings. So you see the clock running at big league stadiums. You know what I'm saying? They're trying that way, but could you imagine if you start putting a pitch clock on the game? All right, guys, fans, game's over, 2.5 hours. You got to go now. No.
Lou, what do you think about the position players throwing, and then you get to a point in the game? It happens more than I guess more than we wish in the minor leagues, where you'll have two position players throwing against each other because both teams just ran out of guys. What are your thoughts on the concept of once you get to the position player, like one team's basically said the game's out of hand, we have no one left to pitch, or we don't want to pitch someone because we need someone for tomorrow or whatever, and we've already lost. The concept of like somehow speeding the game up, cutting innings down, because I've heard that idea floated. It's like basically one team's forfeiting, but they don't want to say it.
Listen,
I'm sure you have an opinion on all this.
I'm not a big fan of the 10-run rule, right? And I'm sure minor league baseball, pro baseball. Listen, the only thing I know about pro baseball is I'm not good enough to play it, coach it. I deserve to watch some of the games sometimes. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying that, Kyle, I don't know. I think that, all those guys that make it to even professional baseball, I don't know what the percentage is, but I guarantee you that if you interviewed all your guys that played on the Fayetteville, on your Fayetteville team, at some point, those middle infielders were pitchers, right? They had to be pitchers at some point, because the best athlete is always the guy in Little League, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The best athlete could throw. So I don't know. I don't know what the pro baseball mentality is on that. I don't know if the fans would agree with that. I don't know. Because remember, to us, baseball is a game. To the owners, it's still a business, right? And there's contracts involved, and I don't know. I wouldn't want to see a position player. I wouldn't want to pay $100 a seat to watch position guys throw because the Mets are losing 20-2. I don't know if I want to see that, but I don't want a team to forfeit either or quit. Maybe you need more pitchers on the roster. I don't know. You know what I mean? Expand the roster to 30 players. Put. Yeah, I know.
Well, the rosters are going down. They're 15 less than they were last year, and they were down from years prior.
It's a business.
It's where you just don't have enough guys,
right? And you don't want to burn guys out either, because now these guys are prospects, right? Anybody who gets drafted or signed, it's got to be a prospect, right? Remember, Kyle, when Ben first started with the Clearwater Phillies, I'll never forget this. Dwayne, I went to the Clearwater Phillies. They had 34 pitchers on the roster in the Gulf Coast League. 34 pitchers. Crazy.
I don't think they had to throw position guys at that point if they got that many pitchers,
And now, Kyle, the CBA that they just signed with the minor league teams doesn't limit every organization to 135 players, active players.
It's 165. Okay. So anyone that's 165, that's everyone in the United States, so that the Dominican complexes don't count towards that. The 40-man roster doesn't count towards that. So it's 165 players. If you're on the 60-day IL, so if it's half the year or the year, your season-end injury, that you don't count.
Wow.
You're still part of the organization. You just don't count towards that limit. But if you're, you're hurt for 3-4 weeks, and you're on the 7-day IL or whatever, however that works, then you're part of that number. So, yeah, and if you have a bunch of guys that are hurt, which a lot of organizations do, you have 15, 20 or more guys that are hurt, then you have 140, 145 players that are able across from AAA through the complex league. So, and to your point earlier, if you're your starter is like, okay, he's going to throw 75 pitches, but then he throws 30 in an inning, and then they don't want him to throw 50 pitches in the first inning, so they take him out, and then you go through two relievers, and now you're like, well, it's the seventh, and we could either stretch this guy 15 pitches more than he should, or we could throw someone that we need for tomorrow because we only have one reliever tomorrow. Then you're like, well, we're not doing either of those, so then bring in the third, fourth string catcher.
Well, Kyle, even listen.
And then
Yeah, no,
I've seen it happen when teams are winning. They just run out of arms. It's like, hey, we're up 5-4 in the bottom of the seventh, but here comes the
But I
fifth
really
catcher
believe, Kyle, that I
to
think
lob it in.
the professional baseball organizations need to make sure there's enough pitchers to get through these games. Now, whether you get a lot of innings or not, listen, I get it. Is it true, Kyle, that the salaries now are up to $30,000? What's the minimum salary in minor league baseball? What's the minimum salary now?
I don't know what the salaries are, or even if that's consistent across teams, but I do know that players get paid more now, but that's part of the reason that the rosters have gone down. Is
Sure.
If you're paying 200 people X amount and you're going to raise their salary 50%, you could spend 50% more, or you could just get rid of the number of employees. So that's the trend.
Like $1,600 a month, right? And you don't get paid from January to January. You get paid from April, May, June, July, August. 5 months. How does a kid live on $9,000 a year? He can't, right? So, but right.
Yeah, especially if they didn't sign for
whatever.
much.
But I think, Kyle, the point being is that, like, I think these professional baseball franchises need to expand the rosters, and if you're going to use pitchers like that, make sure you got enough pitchers to throw. I mean, I don't know. I don't like. Listen, the great story, but Jose Canseco hurt his arm pitching for the Red Sox at one time. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I really think that when you these games that are blowouts, we have them in high school now, more prevalent than any time. Kyle, I kept 30 guys on the team just so we could have scrimmages. There were years, Dwayne, I never cut kids at Ward Melville because we played so many scrimmages that I needed guys to throw innings. And I wouldn't let the pitchers throw, more than 2 or 3 times, a week. Even if they were scrimmage guys, you know what I mean? I get it. It's got to be frustrating for them to be scrimmage guys, but we kept a lot of extra guys. Kyle, 2019, he must have played 20 scrimmages.
Yeah. I'd like to take a second because I gotta take a leak, but then we can get back. I got some. Yeah. I gotta take a leak bet.
Guys,
Same.
you know what? Wait.
Yeah, I gotta
I'll
take a
stay
leak.
till you
So
come back.
we'll bring it back.
Kyle talk to himself. You know what I mean?
No, we'll just
No,
cut
we
it.
can take.
All right,
We're
we'll-
good.
Good job,
We can
guys.
cut it.
I'm
We'll all
excited.
just go.
Wow.
We'll be back.
Wait, you saved me. Thank God for that. Kyle, are you enjoying this minor league grind?
Yeah, it's we have a good group of players, and I get along with our manager really well, and just our coaching staff overall. They were at the complex for the last 2 years, so like we
Oh,
all.
wow.
Yeah, it's part of the reason I chose to come here because they offered me high A to go back to Asheville.
Okay.
But just given how good of a situation Fayetteville is, and plus most of these players, at least the Latin ones, we signed them when I was in the DR, so I've been with them. So our facilities here, as you mentioned earlier, are beautiful. So just to come here to a really good situation, it's been good. The guys have been playing well. They've been doing good work.
Yeah, I saw you guys are 23 and 23. I saw that.
Yeah, no, there have been competitive games. We've beat some good teams. We've played well. Guys are improving, so it's been good as far as the grind goes. It's the schedule's good. It's the baseball's more intriguing, or it's more engaging. during the
Sure.
games. When you're at the complex, like the practice is good and everything, and then you show up to the game and you're like, this is tough because there's like it's hot out, no one's watching, the quality of baseball is not great, and it's you're like, man, I'm just kind of going through it. But
Sorry, I had the shit.
Dwayne, that was
the
quick.
I had the shit.
Dwayne, that was quick, man. Hey,
Ah,
but Kyle, I don't know. Listen, I get, you know, I, I, I watch my teams now, Dwayne sees it. Dwayne sees it at the college level. Dwayne, what do you see at St. Joe's? You've got an interesting cast of characters there. That I know for sure, right? Kyle, I tried to pay the head coach $300 to see one of our former players, Ward Melville bat, and he wouldn't take the money. You know what I mean? And you were playing St. Kyle. Kyle, you got to see some of the teams that St. Joe's plays, like Yeshiva, like
I've heard of this.
you know, Yeshiva, and those kids, they keep showing up,
yeah.
and they get their brains beat in like 30-2,
And they
I
go on
see some of
100-game losing streaks and such, you know?
yeah, I see some of the line scores. The kid threw like, I don't know, he had like 6 innings and like 22 earned runs, and like what is going on? Like how like Dwayne, how do you coach the kids to play against Yeshiva and then take on the Merchant Marine and Maritime that are very good teams? Like how do you go from that to like like compete, right? Like Old Westbury, Farmingdale. There's very good teams in the Skyline Conference. How do you do that as a coach? Like, talk to me about coaching. I want to learn. I want to be a better coach today.
I mean, I think that the preparation remains the same. I think it's just a matter of what kind of people that you have in the program. And I think that Tommy and Elliot and Phil and Coach Ash they've done a great job of recruiting to guys that want to compete and win baseball games. The first time because Division III baseball is like the Wild West. I've been saying that since I played Division III baseball. And you're gonna see some teams that are not competitive, and you're gonna see some teams that you're like, oh my God, how is this team not a Division I baseball team? And there's some really good programs out there, like the Cortlands and Oswego's and those programs out there too, and Farmingdale. So I think it's just a matter of the preparation remaining relatively similar going into those games, and saying like, hey, like let's take care of business. Because listen, baseball is the best game in the world because any team could beat any team on any day. I really do. I'm a firm believer in that. I think teams that get to that level of bad performance beat themselves, from either like throwing lots of balls or making a lot of errors. But you don't want to be that team that I think for a low competitive team, you don't want to be that team that gives them an extra conference win. You're keeping the bigger picture in mind too. Say you drop a game to a weaker team in the conference, that could be the difference between you hosting the conference tournament or even making the playoffs altogether if you're having like one of those 500 types of years. So I think the recruitment is such a big part of it. If you have the right people in the program, it's not easy to get them motivated to play anybody. And then the preparation from the coaching standpoint needs to be relatively similar, if not the same. Like our practice the day before a game was pretty much the same all the time. A lot of it is like machine work and situational hitting, getting us moving our focus into at bats, and grinding out at bats instead of just taking like a traditional RMBP the day before a game, stuff like that.
I mean, you have an interesting scenario too because you play for Coach Caputo at
Yeah.
Dowling, and
Yeah.
now you work for Coach Caputo at St. Joe's.
Yeah.
Right. How has Cap evolved as a coach? Because I talked to Tommy the other day at the Connecticut game,
Yeah.
and we had some interesting conversations, but I don't want to share here because there was a lot of words that started with F, ended with K, and it wasn't fire truck. You know what I'm saying? So we'll
Yeah.
stay away from that. But what what do you see as you were a player for Coach Caputo versus now you're coaching with Coach Caputo? Like what has made you a better coach being playing for Coach Caputo than watching him? That guy to me is one of the best coaches around and
Yeah,
doesn't get enough credit for what he does. And I think if he ever got a Division I baseball job, he could take a team to a regional. I don't care what school he goes to.
yeah,
I really believe that. I mean, Tommy is like, to me, he's just a genius of a coach. And what do you see? And like I said to Kyle and you, I want to be a better coach today. That's why I got on this podcast. I want to be better at baseball.
No, that's a really good question, and it's something that I get asked a lot, and it's something that I think about a lot too, because I told Kyle at the end of last year that I was very glad to have gone and coached at St. Joe's because I could see my own personal progression as a coach. I could see myself getting better as a coach just from being around him and Ash and Elliot last year, and this year we had Phil. But we Cap and I sat. Do you know where the airport diner is?
Yes.
Yeah. So Cap and I sat in the airport diner after the Connecticut season ended in 2023, and he had talked to me about coming and coaching at St. Joe's, and something that he talked to me about was how every 4 or 5 years it's like a cycle, and the personality of the player changes as an individual and as a group, and it's something that I agree with too. Not I wouldn't say the overall personality, but what motivates, what speaks to the players culturally, like music changes. Like Lou, you do a good job of this too. We've bonded and had conversations about different music. We've had
Sure.
conversations and bonded over like Ted and Ted 2, like those movies. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think Tommy does a really good job of is he learns the language of his players, he learns what motivates them, and I wouldn't say caters because there are certain things that have to look a certain way, which he talks about a lot too. Like there's a certain standard that has to be upheld, but his approach to coaching different generations of players, he makes certain adaptations on so that things resonate more with players. Like he does something he'll do things similar to yourself where he'll reference a rap song and he'll be like, I don't even know what the hell this means or whatever and sound like an older guy,
Sure.
but he'll get a laugh out of some of the younger players and stuff like that. And
Oh
then he'll
yeah.
have his introspective wisdom just dispelled in his own personal way.
Right.
But what he does such a good job of is just making adjustments, which is what I said to him too that same day was my biggest criticism of coaches is when guys are not willing to make adjustments. They're asking players to make adjustments all the time, but some coaches act like they have climbed the mountain and they don't need to learn anything else. And I think that's what Tommy does such a good job of is he is always constantly learning, he's always improving, and he's always making adjustments. So I think that's what makes him so good.
Kyle, what about you in your professional baseball experience? Like, what has made you a better hitting coach? Like, you were always a great hitting coach, in my opinion. Dwayne, in
Well, I'm
2019,
not
I,
avoiding the question, but I want to answer a different one first. When you
go
asked
ahead.
Dwayne what was it like to play for a coach and then coach them, I was thinking of what I would think with you. Um, I and I like what Dwayne brings up. I never realized as a player until I coached with you just how plugged in you are to what's going on with them,
Oh, right.
especially because you work in the same school district, you know their teachers, and like you hear stuff through the back channels. But when I was playing, like if one of my teammates did something silly in school or like went out to some party or whatever, like you'd be like making fun of them, and the guys would be all like laughing along, and it was just like it would be
Sure.
easy. And then I didn't notice that was intentional as a player, but then when I coached with you, I was like, wait, the things he's talking about with the guys are not the same things he was talking about with us. Um, so I always thought
Ah,
that was pretty cool because then like if
well,
a kid wears something silly to homecoming, the next day of practice, like everyone's talking about it while stretching, and
right.
that
Yeah.
it's so subtle, but it keeps the group like it's very cohesive. in that way.
That year,
Um,
Kyle, that was a good group of kids we had in 2019. Believe it or not, Kyle, some of those kids are still playing college baseball. Think about
well,
that for a minute.
Yeah, we have that too. We
Yeah,
got some guys from 2019.
right. Like Ryan Hines just was pitcher of the year in the ECC. And Dwayne Ryan that year. If we talk about guys going 78 to 80, and but Ryan Hines was
yeah, he came out of nowhere.
3-0, 3-0. He was on the team just.
This is a great episode. This is what the people need, realistically.
Yep.
If we could have
I
Coach
was
Lou on like every other episode and just have him just go.
I was thinking about that before. I was like, this one's so much different, and like the Cap one was like this, and Vito was too, to a degree, where it wasn't sort of like question and like you and I are muted and we're sitting there just kind of like, okay, I got something next, or I want to add to that, or like where should we want to bring the conversation? And it's more of
It's
just
just
like,
talking.
yep, yeah. I'm excited to have Cap back on.
I know, me too. Savage.
Yep. It's our
He's
most.
gonna. I already know.
Oh,
I know what
Yeah,
he's gonna cover.
yeah, guys,
okay,
I got reconnected. So like, sorry.
it's
What I
all
was
good.
saying to you, Kyle, and Dwayne was that like, listen, you were on my team in 2011 and 2012, right? And 7 years is a long time. Especially in a high school baseball career. You know what I'm saying? And I think that you know I think that even though I'm 65, I'll be 65 years old soon. I got my Medicare card, getting ready to go. Uh, I think coaches have to adapt, like Dwayne says, and I thought that year with you there too, because you were the low voice, Kyle. You were the best at that. You were the low voice. You were the voice of reason, and I really give Kyle all the credit in the world, Dwayne. 2019, we never would have won anything if it was for Kyle Brennan and his hitting groups and breaking down the hitters into we got the slashers, the bangers, and the sluggers. What were the three groups, Kyle?
Something like that. Yeah, I took that from
Yeah,
my
I mean, I mean,
college
like,
coach.
it was great because listen, we had a Division I player, right, Dwayne, a guy dedicated to baseball. He said, I approached Kyle. Kyle, why don't you coach? Be the varsity, coach. Oh yeah, yeah, great, yeah. We 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 were a wild pitch away from winning the county championship against Connecticut. I still believe that Matt Franco was safe. I swear to this day that Matt Franco was safe, and I tell Eddie Cepeda all the time. I really don't care, but I'm just saying that. But I think Kyle single-handedly, I really give him credit for this. I said to him, 2020, 2019, his style of coaching, connected to the kids in the terms of that they bought in and they made themselves better hitters because that was probably one of the best hitting teams we ever had in terms of like Ethan Farino, Matt Franco, Pascal, guys hitting home runs in big spots all the time. And yes, we had the portable fence there, and yes, we put the fence at an advantageous spot where balls would fly out of the park. But that's the way it goes. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that
Kyle
that whole
remembers.
experience was a good uh, example or like a lesson in leadership where, um, like I know you give me a lot of credit for that, but all I had to do was step in and just do the things that I'm good at. I got the guys prepared physically. I had full freedom to do that, and then I could just tell them what I thought they needed to hear based on having played at the level above them. Um, Yeah, well,
Here we go.
basically, I was allowed to show up and just do the things I'm good at, and you were handling so much of the other between the personality and then like the parents and the prep and the lineup and all that, where all I had to do was just show up and um, only I could stay in my lane, which first
Wow.
year coaching high school baseball, like that was, uh,
But
I was just focused on what was easy.
but Dwayne, what Kyle did well was he didn't count hits. He had a chart, and I see him over there at first base. He recorded every barrel. So the goal was to have barrel contact. and Kyle kept track of all that. Those stats were, to me, the most great stats I ever compiled by any of our coaches. You know what I mean? I don't care what anybody says. But like he had barrel stats. Barrels with 2 outs, barrel with 2 strikes, barrel 1 strike, barrel in positive counts, barrels in negative counts. You know what I mean? And I think he was able to video kids hitting and take that information and translate it to the kid where he said, hey, this works. I mean, we hit a lot of home runs that year, Dwayne. I mean, we hit a lot of home runs. Were you at Connecticut then in 2019? Were you the assistant coach there?
Yeah.
I mean, we hit a lot of home runs. And
Yeah.
those kids were really good hitters. I mean, Anthony Pascal had a great career at Bridgeport, and Matt Franco just finished up at Pace. And I mean, Ethan Freno, I thought he should have played more, but he got discouraged at Marist. But like, those kids were hitting the baseball hard. They were hitting the baseball hard. It was great. It was
I
a lot
remember
of fun.
the biggest focus, and I didn't have this intention going into the year, but I realized it pretty early on that we needed them on time. Just
Yeah.
timing. Like I would throw to them, and I'd throw pretty hard, probably because I had the yips and didn't have the ability to throw it soft and have nice easy BP. I had to get on them a little bit, and then like walk them through like when to start and what to expect. And I'd throw curveballs sometimes, but then I'd mix it. So it's a lot of that. And we had some talented kids that bought into the idea, and they had been friends forever, so they would compete with each other. If someone had a bad round, instead of like, oh, this drill's too hard, like the other guys would barrel one and then talk shit to him, and then he'd come back in and try to figure it out. So it was a really good player development and environment, even though that wasn't like the goal. I wouldn't have said that then, but in hindsight, that was it was a really good group.
But I think too, Kyle, they respected you as a person, as a player, and a role model. And I think that's the key to any good, successful high school program is how you translate what is important. And I thought those kids bought in, and it was fun because Dwayne, Kyle is great with the fungo. He would just launch missiles like high in the air, and the kids were like, "Wow!" And Kyle said, "You can do that too." Kyle gave them the energy to do the impossible, and I think in any high school program, doing the impossible will make successful. Like Connecticut wins every year. They every year they win. Every year, West Iceland, every year they win. When I think that we need more kids and people like Kyle coming back and coaching the kids that grew up idolizing them when they were playing at their high schools. I think that's important to me. That's important, I think, to the program. I think it's important to kids to see that too, that the kids that were successful came back to be more successful. I think Kyle's done that great. I mean, the fact that Kyle was now coaching hitting, it's just it's a great tribute to Kyle's work ethic and all the things he's done as a baseball player. Listen, I'm sure Kyle's upset about him not hitting 50 home runs at Ward Melville, but it's a small package. We played 100 games. Kyle hit 10 home runs. It's that simple. We played 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see
No,
it,
I
right?
completely agree. I think the community aspect that you're touching on is very important, and that's part of what's lost. I played at the Connecticut Youth Association until I aged out. And I think that was, I mean, even when I was playing travel baseball, even when I played for Greg, Greg's my brother. Even when I
Greg is
played
my
for
brother, buddy.
Even when I played for Greg emphasized us playing for our little league,
Well,
and it was that sense of community too. And I see one thing that I really wanted to make sure I brought up here. What I've always been impressed about you, Lou, is your investment in those younger teams in the program, and just letting them know who they're going to be playing for, what the program means, what is expected of players in your program. And you do such a good job of getting varsity guys and alumni involved in that stuff too. You bring a good sense of community to your program.
it's very nice of you to say that, but see, I have nothing else to do, so You know what I mean? I really listen. I watch. I go. Kyle knows I go watch 12U games. Listen, I always say this, and I say it with complete honesty. The uh the the Ward Melville's success has been due to the fall baseball program, which Kyle was a big part of. By the way, we tried. We speaking of position players, we tried to make Kyle a reliever. Remember that, Kyle? We throw you in. We made you a
Oh, that's
closer.
right. Yeah, it never happened.
Made you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had. I mean, Kyle was throwing 90 before it was fashionable throwing 90. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
It's
Because Kyle had a
81.
cannon, and we said, no, no, no. Let's let Kyle catch. He's going to go to college, be a big time catcher. And I think that the fall program is tantamount to our success at Ward Melville, and the Little League winter workshops have allowed us to be extremely successful. You know, the Steven Matz pitching clinics. You know, we couldn't do those every year because Steven has a family now and he lives in Nashville. And, you know, Anthony K. You know, Ben, they're busy. I get it, but I think retouching the Little League kids early is the success of any program. You know, Rocky Point's doing that now. West Islip always done it. You know, CYA to me, when people say CYA, it meant Connecticut Youth Association. It doesn't mean cover your ass to me. It means CYA. It means cover Connecticut Youth. I mean, Kyle, you ever been to that complex?
I have.
I love that
Once
complex.
or twice playing, and then this past fall, I actually lived right next to it. Uh,
Wow,
yeah,
it's
coincidentally,
tremendous.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
It's
mean,
impressive.
they do. Listen, it's Massapequa of Suffolk County. You know, my nephew has. I call my nephew. He has a young son playing in Massapequa Coast Little League. And when you go watch Massapequa Coast Little League, and you wonder why Massapequa was always good every year. And you know, listen, I'm not. You know, the coaches are great. Tom Sheedy's a great friend of mine. Coach Cafaro, they're great people. They've always won. They always will win. But you go watch that Massapequa Coast Little League and Massapequa International Little League. Those little leagues are producing baseball players because of the culture that the Coast Little League presents. They all stay within the league. You know, Craig Garland does a great job. You know, Dwayne, if you're in a Massapequa if you're a coach, and you get caught not wearing the Coast coaching shirt, you have to umpire games. And if you mess up, like coaching wise, you have to run the scoreboards. You know, or you got to work the concession stands. You know what I mean? So I think those programs are highly accountable, and they make baseball important in Massapequa. And I watched that Connecticut too. You know, I think Ward Melville. We had the Little League fields behind the school, and because we talked about people having cars, because every Ward Melville kid's got a BMW and a Mercedes, we had the baseball fields in the back there blown up for a parking lot. Okay, so you can't fight City Hall, but we had to do the winter clinics and reach the youth kids and show them that baseball can be important here, like it is in other communities. I like you say, Dwayne, CYA to me always meant Connecticut Youth Association. That was
Yeah, I mean, I knew from a young age where I would be playing, who I'd be playing for. I think Ambrosini did a good job of that. You know, we had I think like late elementary school, early middle school, we had those camps on the varsity field. Middle school, we had
sure,
camps on the varsity field.
yeah.
Very similar to what you guys do, and then Connecticut's kind of had a resurgence in that as well. You know, there's been a sort of a resurgence in the youth there, and there's camps going on there. There's alumni there, everything, right? So a lot of guys are very much involved there as well too. I think that's something that's kind of lost because there's such a rush for guys to get into private travel baseball, you know?
Well, I don't know what the cause of that is. You know, I got my own nephew. He coaches a coast. He coaches one of the coast teams, and he played for me with the Long Island Tigers back in the early 2000s. But like the the travel baseball should not start until the kid's like maybe 12 years old. But
Like that Cooperstown year, you'd say?
yeah, but what happens is though the pressure and oh, if you don't play travel baseball, you're gonna
8U.
fall behind. No,
8U is great.
no, you're not gonna fall behind. I
I
think
know.
I don't think you're gonna fall behind. I tell my own nephews, listen, do me a favor, do what I did with you. I said to him, 'cause I lived in Massapequa before I moved to Green Village, and I would take him out in the playground and I would like throw fly balls to him and make him run and go catch it. And then we play home run derby in the back with a whole bunch of his friends, and I take balls off my kneecaps. You know what I mean? But I'm saying, like, the baseball you learn in the playgrounds on your own, it allows you to develop later in life. I don't think standing in the outfield while the pitcher catches 4 ground balls at 7U, 8U, and everybody strikes out or walks makes kids better. I think it turns kids off the baseball, and I wish we can't change that, because, like, I was at baseball heaven this weekend, and there's 9U, 10U, 11U, 12U. Like, there's every U. There's every U there, and I don't
I
know.
heard something for the first time in the fall. There's a travel prep league that exists in Smithtown.
I've never even heard of that.
They're
Oh
like
boy.
6. It's to prepare
Oh
them
boy.
for travel. I'm like, what?
I thought that was
Oh
just
boy.
T-ball or the Farms League for Little League. That's what I thought it
Yeah.
was, you
Well,
know?
listen, one of my great friends. She worked at Mound. She goes, I wanted her son to come to Ward Melville, and I joke around. She says, "Why don't you coach his travel team? See, play at Ward Melville. We travel to Connecticut, Comac, Sachem North, Sachem East. That's travel baseball. High school baseball is travel baseball. That's when you travel, right? But up until a certain age, right? It reminds me of the times I fought Kyle and Dwayne. Remember, Dwayne, we never went to Georgia, our teams. We didn't have to. We had good players.
No. Yeah, we did, but there was nobody that had that was going to play there, you know?
No, but here's the thing with the Georgia experience, and I love the Georgia experience because I've been there, 10, 15, 20 times, whatever it was, in my amateur coaching career. It's fun to watch players who can play. To me, it's fun. You know, I used to challenge my teams, Kyle, guys, instead of going to off day, instead of going to Six Flags and going to going to the pool, go to a game and find a player that is better at your position than you are. I challenge you to do that, right? Write his name down and put it in a box. I put it in a box. And I like 6 years ago, I went back in the box and I saw one kid wrote Mookie Betts. I said, what? One kid wrote Kumar Rocker. One kid wrote, I forgot the kid, another big leaguer's name, but off the top of my head, I got to get the box. It's downstairs. But, like, I'm saying, when you go to Georgia, you see the players that are going to be first round picks. And hopefully Bobby Witt Jr., Max Nielsen, Kyle, struck out Bobby Witt Jr. twice in a game.
Wow. I believe
Yeah.
it.
We,
Wow.
and we played, and Max was good. Max was a great high school player, Max was, he struck out. We had Matty Moore on the team. We had Brady Doran. We had all those kids that were great Ward Melville players. I was able to get like 4 or 5 of them on that Arsenal team. And we went to Georgia, and all of a sudden there's 50 scouts there. And the kids are like, whoa, there's 50 scouts. I go, well, they're here to see Bobby Witt Jr., you know? And we played against Max Clark, too, with that team you talked about, with Alex Moritas, Jack Friend, all those guys. We saw Max Clark. And when Max Clark walks on the field, you see that high-level athlete. Like, well, the way they walk on the field, they're good. You know what I mean? I think that's what Georgia gives you, that baseball experience. But if you're going down there because you think you're going to go to Georgia or Alabama or North Carolina State, it's uh, it's the wrong message to be sent. And I think that the travel baseball world is it's a money making world, and it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, listen, kind of not pivoting, but along the high school travel baseball conversation, I think what kind of puts travel baseball on a pedestal and kind of puts down high school baseball is a lot of people saying, well, you're not going to get recruited to play college baseball during the high school season. So such a big emphasis is being placed on travel baseball, But I will say there's nothing that is too similar to college baseball prior to being there. But high school, there aren't many travel baseball teams that are practicing as much and spending as much time together as a high school program. So
I was
like
thinking about
you,
that yesterday. I was talking with
yeah,
Sean O'Neill, and he was talking about how like certain fundamentals of the game aren't taught at the high school level anymore. And I believe it, but it's interesting to me because to your point, like knowing how to run a first and third play, or knowing how to do a double cut, knowing how an IO works, and like where the catcher's supposed to be, and like how the ball is going to circulate around the infield, and where to take your lead, and all those things. Like those, I learned those in middle school and high school baseball. I picked up little things from college, the travel ball coaches that had played in college, like little tweaks, but the foundation of it, I was not taught on 14U or 12U. It was those were just show up and play.
Well,
Like it was always after school.
well, Kyle, the hard part about that is the business travel baseball has become, right? Like baseball heaven is not going to make any money if you have games that start at 8 and end at 10:30, right? So there's no infield outfield at any travel baseball. No, no, never seen infield outfield, and
there's not even like hitting before games. Like kids aren't taking. Listen. I appreciate the art of a show and go, Lou. Don't get
yeah,
me
I get
wrong.
it.
I love a good show and go, but
No,
there's no practice available prior to a game. Meanwhile, college baseball, you're at the field 4 hours before the game.
oh sure,
You know.
yeah, and and listen, we had, I'm coaching with Joe Francisco, 14U, he, we were lucky because we had 8 a.m. games. So the kids got to the field at 7 o'clock. So by the time the game started, we had, kids were throwing. We did some hitting, did some catching progressions, did some infield work, outfield work. We were able to get our work in. But if you have a game at 10 o'clock, you can't do that. It's a business. I get it. You got so many days, so many hours in the day, and the field's got to be utilized because they're paying rent on those fields. And I get it. It's just listen, perfect game is a good job. Perfect game time limits are 2 hours, but everything else is an hour 50. And then when it rains, it's an hour 30 or hour 40. Like, how do you play a baseball game in 100 minutes? I don't know how you get better at that. I think there's got to be the day's got to come where somebody's got to grab the bull by the horns and say, "Hey, listen, we're gonna rent these 3 fields. We're gonna run X amount of leagues, X amount of teams, and you get to play the full game. And we play 3 games a day instead of 4, or 4 games a day instead of 5, and let kids play a full 7 inning game." Now think about this, Dwayne and Kyle. You coach with the Titans, Kyle, and Dwayne, you coach too. How many times have you experienced a walk-off game-winning hit in travel baseball in the bottom of the 7th? Or there's never a bottom of the 8th in travel baseball unless you're in a championship scenario. But in
Yeah.
high school, you have bottom of the 8th situations all the time. You have bottom of the 9th all the time, top of the 9th. That is when you learn how to play the game at another level. When you've got to compete, when the game's on the line, when people are breathing down your necks, when every pitch matters. I don't know. Maybe,
No,
maybe
you're
I'm
right. You're
maybe I'm
right.
barking up the wrong tree.
I was obviously following Connecticut a lot this year. Like they won, I feel like 5 games on walk-offs this year. Like
Yeah,
that's fun. Isn't that fun? Isn't that why we play? Isn't that why we're still involved in the game? Because that shit's the most fun,
yeah.
you know?
Well, Kyle, you see that at the pro level, right? Like, how excited does the game get when it's top of the 10th, top of the 11th, and you've got to score a run or you've got to stop a team from scoring?
It's awesome, especially when you have like fans and a crowd involved. And in high
Sure.
school, I think some of the more, even more so than college, in high school, at least in my experience, that the like it wasn't big, but there was a crowd and there were fans that were into it, whether it was parents or other students that came to the game. If it was a playoff game or something, you're playing your rivals. And I'm remembering like you're talking about like learning to compete. I remember catching and there being like second and third and like one out and their best hitters up, and like you're calling let's say we're calling a curveball, and it's like, oh, I have to block this.
Right.
Otherwise a run scores
Well,
and like that, and dealing with that, and then if I don't catch something well and you're screaming at me to try to distract, take the pressure off the pitcher by yelling at me, like those moments, you learn more during that than I did from playing some game at baseball heaven on 5:30 on a Wednesday night
well,
with no one there.
Hey, Dwayne, I still have the video on my email account. Mr. Brennan sent it to me. It was Kyle's junior year. We're playing William Floyd, and we put in a pinch runner, J.J. Joseph, in the bottom of the eighth or ninth, and Kyle Brennan with a walk-off double to left center. J.J. scored from first base. I still have that video in my email account, and I watch it periodically. Jim Brennan's going crazy. J.J. Joseph scored the only run of his baseball career, but I think those days, like Kyle's laughing because those are great memories, Kyle. I think that like the kids don't get those memories in summer baseball. You don't get those walk-off victories at home.
Yeah.
On a cold, rainy day. You know what I'm saying? Do you remember that, Kyle? It was a walk-off double. You hit a
No,
bomb
I
in the
do.
gap, and 2 outs, two
I hit
strikes. I think it was too. So
I couldn't tell you how many outs or how many strikes like you can, but I
well,
remember hitting a deep-ish fly ball to the right center that the
yeah, right
outfielder
center
should have
gap.
caught,
Yeah,
but he ran a poor route to it, went over his head, and then there had to have been 2 outs because otherwise he wouldn't have scored it from first. But
yeah. Because J.J. Jones probably would have stopped a second. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I'm saying, but like, I think that those moments, Kyle, and that I think those are the things that motivate baseball players to get better. I think realizing time, essence, competing, obviously, again, I hate that word, competing is the ultimate goal to making people better baseball players. But more importantly, having memories that last a lifetime. I think that, we talked about that game in 2011 like it was yesterday. And I remember it was against William Floyd. It was at Ward Melville. You got a big hit. I think that, like you got a lot of big hits for us, and I think that, there was a time there, Dwayne, when Kyle was catching, teams refused to run. Like they wouldn't even run on Kyle Brennan. Junior year or senior year, they didn't. I mean, I think Kyle threw out like 10 of 12 runners, which is unheard of
yeah,
in
it
any
was
level.
10 for 14.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
my
sorry.
senior.
See, Kyle remembers
It's the
that.
catching machine.
Oh,
It's the catching machine right there,
no,
baby.
but again, too, listen. Kyle gets a lot of credit for that, obviously, but you got to remember
I was just
too.
about to bring up, we had pitchers that were like a 1-1 to the plate.
Anthony Kay still has one of the best pickoff moves I've ever seen in my life. Anthony Kay held runners out like Kyle Pedroli. I joke around like Kyle followed Kyle Brennan, so it was easy for me. I just kept yelling Kyle, Kyle, Kyle for like 4 straight years. It was easy. You know what I mean? And when Anthony Kay was pitching,
He was good as well,
oh,
Pedroli.
let me tell you something. Kyle did everything wrong, but throw the runner out. That's all I'm gonna say. If the guy ran on Kyle Pedroli, he threw him out. And the one thing, Kyle was our 4 hitter. He never faltered in the clutch. Like there was games he had had 2 home runs against Comac, game-winning hits against Sachem North, Connecquots, Pat Med. Kyle Pedroli did one game. Dwayne, you like this, and Kyle remembers this. I told him later. Kyle Pedroli broke his ankle in a playoff game at Sachem North. Caught the whole game on a broken ankle. 7 innings. Kyle Pedroli. Think about that for a minute. That's competitiveness. It was his last game he ever caught as a baseball player. He wasn't going to play in college. He went to Quinnipiac. He's going to be a millionaire CPA one day with his own company. Him and Joe Flynn are probably start their own company, make more money than Matz K and Ben Brown combined. But Dwayne, Kyle Pedroli caught a whole game, a playoff game, on a broken ankle. Like that to me means everything. You know what I mean? You remember that story, Kyle? You know that one, right?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when you told me, but yeah, Case told me that.
Yeah, caught the whole game on his ankle was broken. I mean, it wasn't like it sprained; it was broken. He was in a cast for 6 weeks. He graduated limping off the Ward Melville podium. I think that, like I think kids like that develop over time, but I think high school baseball generates that type of mentality of, hey, I'm not coming out of this game. My ankle's broken. Coming out? Nope. I left him alone. And the next day we
Yeah.
had a game against Comac, and he still tried to catch. We had to put Jeff Toll in the game to catch. Another great Ward Melville catcher, by the
Yeah,
way.
absolutely.
Who now
But I think
is coaching Murphy, by the way, Kyle. Jeff's doing a great job at Murphy, by the way.
Oh, is he good?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Jeff is high energy.
Mhm.
He's almost as big as a machine, but almost, Kyle. Almost.
He's stronger than I am. I'll tell you that.
Well, he can lift, that's for sure.
It's like these concepts that we keep circling back to, this competitiveness, and it always has me go back to that one of his many famous recorded speeches by Augie Garrido, where he's like, it's not about baseball, it's about our lives, and it's true. Being around the game of baseball for as long as you've had the opportunity to be around a lot of really good people, not just baseball guys, not just baseball players, but people. So what's it like for you to be, like, you coached with Kyle, I'm sure you've coached with other former players, you're coaching with Bucky now, who's another guy who played travel baseball for you on the same team as me. What's that like for you to see the maturity of some of the guys that you've had underneath you?
Well, listen, I have nothing to do basically, so when I'm not talking to you guys, I'm bothering my friends that coach college baseball. Ed Blankmeyer, Bob Hirschfield, all these guys. Guys I respect and admire as coaches and guys who dedicated their time in baseball. But the one conversation I bring up all the time is, I don't know if you know this guy, Kyle, but he's a basketball coach. His name is Jack Curran. And Jack Curran was the basketball coach at Malloy High School in Queens. And he won over 1,000 games in basketball. Coached Kenny Smith, Kenny Anderson, a lot of great basketball players. And he coached at Malloy High School, baseball and basketball, and he was the AD too, right, Dwayne, Kyle? So I sat down with Jack Curran one day, a couple of guys, and said, Coach Curran, how do you become a successful high school coach? Like, how do I become a better coach? He says, looks me straight in the eye. He goes, Luke, win or lose, love your players. I says, Coach Curran, that's it? Like, I thought he was going to say, hey, do this in batting practice, take infield, outfield this way, handle your pitchers this way. Said nothing about that. Nothing. Not a thing about anything, but said, love your players. So I think that our success, or anybody's success as a high school coach, is how much you enjoy being around the players, win or lose. Now, you know me, Dwayne, I hate losing more than anybody, and Kyle knows that too. So, like when Augie Garrido says, in 15 minutes you'll forget about this, it's true. Like Kyle laughs. He goes,
yeah.
I remember the game-winning hits. I remember the game-winning losses. I remember the Anthony Kay game where he threw a no-hitter for 8 innings and we lost to C.J. Schilt at Kopog, and Kay's throwing his glove. I remember those games. And I remember us losing to Smithtown West when Al Nucci yelling out numbers, and my third baseman Matt LaRusso going, he's yelling too many numbers. I go, he's yelling numbers because they're bunting. It's not 3-4-3 hit a home run. Dwayne, Al, 3-4-3
That's so true.
home run. No, it doesn't work that way. He's yelling bunt. And Kyle was there too. Were you there?
You yelled it just like that during the game in front of everyone. He's yelling out numbers because they're bunt. Yeah.
I go, he's not hitting a home run. And then, Dwayne, we had a game once, and I'm sure Kyle remembers this. We're trying to beat Comac, and I think we're battling for the league title in 2011 or 2012, and we beat Comac the first 2 games. We go to Comac, and Dan Pedrazzo's pitching. Matt LaRusso is at third base. Nicky Nunziato is at shortstop, and Dan O'Neill is in left field, right? And you know Nicky's voice. Nick Nunziato. Remember Nick, Dwayne? He had that deep voice. You could hear it a mile away. You could hear it, Dwayne, you could hear it a mile away. And we're winning 2-0 at Comac, and the Comac fans are there on the side, and all of a sudden there's a pop-up. I call it the Bermuda Triangle pop-up between O'Neill, LaRusso, and Nick Nunziato. Nick comes running out there. Dan O'Neill comes running in. Somebody else on the side, I got it, and the ball drops in. They score 2 runs. Dan Pedrazzo loses his mind. No, Anthony Pedrazzo loses his mind. Wound up losing the game 5-3, whatever. So Dan O'Neill comes in. I go, Dan, why'd you just catch it? Oh, I thought Nicky yelled, I got it. I go, what? Nicky had that deep voice. He had that deep voice, like he was a cartoon character. You know what I mean? But like Nick's voice was undeniably apart from anybody else, and we just lost the game. But like I remember that like it was yesterday, you know. And Dwayne, you like this one too. Nick Nunziato hit some of the. Were you there, Kyle? When he hit some of the longest home runs ever. Were you there for that?
Yeah, Nick and I were the same year. Yeah, so he
yeah.
hit a ball.
Dwayne,
Dwayne, I don't know how much you remember Ward Melville, but he hit a ball onto the 15-yard line of the.
Holy shit!
And the
That's
reason we know that was because it one-hopped a girl playing lacrosse, and we knew the girl, and she's like, I get hit by a ball, and we were like, where were you standing? And she was like, well, I was actually right next to the goal on the field, and when it was like 510 feet, confirmed by Google Images.
That's pretty far.
But Dwayne, more importantly, Kyle, the thing about that, Kyle and Dwayne, is that like what happened was the at-bat before that, we're playing at Comac, game 1. And it was extra innings, and Joe Flynn was pitching game 1 again. Get back to Joe Flynn. And we're winning. We're tie game, top of the ninth. And it's a 3-2 count. They got nobody on. Remember this, Kyle? And Eddie Bowl was the manager of Comac at the time. I'll wait for Kyle to get back. Oh, here we go. Kyle's back. But Eddie, it's a 3-2 count. Remember this, Kyle? Okay. It's top of the ninth, 3-2 count. Nicky's up, and Eddie Bowl is out of the Comac dugout, pushing the outfielder back. And Nicky gets a hold of one. The outfielder, picked up the ball by the fence at left field in Comac, and by the time the ball came in, Nick was crossing home plate. I went, holy cow. Dwayne, the ball was like, it was obliterated. I think that ball went farther, Kyle, than the one he hit at Ward Melville. But Dwayne, the best part about it was the next at-bat, the next day at Ward Melville, the very first at-bat, Nick hit another home run. And you know, that's his legendary status. You know, he had a baby, Kyle. He named his son Nash Nunziato. That's his name. That's a great baseball name if I ever heard one. Nash.
That is a baseball name right there.
That's awesome.
I mean, hey, Kyle,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Dwayne, think about competitiveness, right? Let's swing back to that one. Nick Nunziato, one day, Kyle was there too. He hit 4 consecutive home runs against Longwood High School in 2 separate games. Adam Schuster hit it.
Forgot about that. He did.
Yeah. You know Adam. Remember Adam? Adam's the best. Adam Schuster hit a 3-run home run to make it 4-1. And then Nick hit another 3-run home run to make it 7-1. The next time we played Longwood, Nick had 3 consecutive home runs, Dwayne, right? Now, Tony Nunziato would have went crazy if he saw this. He would have lost his mind. He wasn't there at this game. Nick hits the first home run, bomb. Second home run, bomb. Third home run, the kids at Longwood were shaking his hand as he's rounding the bases. Dwayne, they're shaking his hand. I'm going, Nick, what are you shaking their hands for? Well, they stuck it out. They go, Nick, this is what you're supposed to do, hit home runs. Then it was like, the game was out of control, but we had to let Nick bat the 4th time, right? The other team, Dan Parisi, was cheering, wanting Nick to hit the 4th home run. Nick hit a fly ball to center field. I couldn't believe it. I still the greatest.
That's unreal.
All the time, you know. But I'm saying, but as
that
far
is
as,
unreal.
But like we don't have a guy hit 2 home runs in a year. But Nick hit 4 and like and Nick hit 4 in like 2 games, consecutive baskets, the same team. Man, that Kyle's unbelievable, right? You saw the handshaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had. I think. Did he have more raw power than Flynn?
I think raw power. Oh yeah. I mean, like Kyle. He had that. Remember him hitting Dwayne. He'd hit with wood bat in the cage and you didn't have to look. You could hear the click of the bat when he took swings. It was a different sound. Remember that, Kyle? It was a
Yeah,
different sound.
he didn't get cheated.
Oh no, Nick didn't get cheated.
I remember
And when he
once he
struck
went and
out,
played in once he went and played in college, and I was in the trailer with Downey, and this had to have been like March 10th or so, and he was playing Division II, so they started earlier. We looked at March 10th, and we went to look at stats of like how guys were doing. I think it was hurt or something that year, and we go to look at Nick, and we're like, he's got 10 home runs. They've played
yeah,
11 games.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he hit. Nick would never. I used to joke around with Nick. Nick, he hit a couple of singles. He goes, "That's no fun, Coach P. That's no fun. I got to hit doubles and home runs." Nick never got cheated. That's for sure. Nick never got cheated. You know. Hey, Kyle, the great stories when I met Nick Nunziato, Kyle, right? Dwayne, you'll love this. My first year coaching at Ward Melville was 2007. We have AJ Nunziato, who arguably is probably the best shortstop ever to play at Ward Melville. And a great player, played at Lander, won the Yastrzemski Award. He won the Yastrzemski Award, Dwayne and Kyle. No home runs. He had no home runs. He won the Yastrzemski Award. But he was such an outstanding fielder that he led our team to Suffolk County Finals in 2007 with him, Steven Matz, Jeremy Delgado, Brian Ellison, Mike Yassin, whole bunch of great guys, great baseball players in their own right. And AJ, we have practice, and Tony brings Nicky down. And I thought AJ was an only child. You know what I mean? I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? So I thought you were an only child, Dwayne. You know what I mean? I thought you were the only one, right? So Nicky's walking
Nope.
down, Kyle, with Tony coming to Ward Melville. I said, Tony, you got another one? He goes, yeah. I go, is he as good as AJ? No. He doesn't even have a glove. All he wants to do is hit. I go, what? What, doesn't have a glove? What? And Nick wound up being, a great college baseball player for sure. Kyle, the funny thing is about this today, think about this. Think about the showcase players, Dwayne. If Nick Nunziato went to a showcase today and put on the power display he could put on, he'd be at University of Miami. He'd be a Power 5 school, right, Kyle? What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, he would have been hitting balls like 110 in high school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Dwayne, the velocity he would hit balls at, it was just like, the balls would take off. Dwayne, you've been at Brentwood State Park?
Yeah, many times.
Do you know the first field with the lights in right center, the houses in right center? He put a ball in the backyard. Yes. He put a ball in the backyard in right center. Remember that one, Kyle?
Yeah, it's a shot.
That ball, it's just ridiculous balls he hit. And listen, Joe Flynn hit one too, by the way. Speaking of bombs at Brentwood State Park, Joe Flynn hit one over the playground in left field. Hit it over the playground.
Would it hit the snack shack over there?
No. The snack shack's to the left. Hit it over the playground in left center. That's how far.
Oh, jeez.
Flynn was just a monster, but Joe had the same bat speed too that Nicky had. But Nick obviously had 30 some odd college home runs. But Nick, listen, today's day and era, Nick's like a modern day Giancarlo Stanton. How's that statement, Kyle?
It's impressive.
Yeah,
I think you're right in saying that in today's game, that the hitting tool is definitely emphasized a little bit more. Maybe his recruitment track looks a little different.
Well, Nicky always had power. He just, listen, like anything else, Kyle, you've seen it. You got guys in the minor leagues that are just not consistent enough. They don't get to the big leagues, right? Like, what are you seeing now at Fayetteville? What do you see at Fayetteville that reminds you, like you've seen a lot of big leaguers hit, obviously. The guys at Fayetteville that are most consistent, do they fast track up to the big leagues or does it take more time?
Guys that make a lot of contact and like they have good at bats and they just hit the ball pretty well a lot. I don't want to say they move up faster just because there's other things involved, like how their defense is and and who's above them and as far as rosters and all that goes, but they handle better pitching more.
Sure.
Whereas the guys that he can hit it 450 feet whenever he wants in BP, but don't, there's a lot of swing and miss. Like the better the pitching that gets, like that, it just doesn't translate as much. So guys that can just square up the ball a lot and swing good pitches, that's that I don't want to use the word defends, but that it's more resilient to good pitching. And you can see that with who wins in the postseason in the last 10
Sure.
years. Which offenses do well during the regular season and which ones do well in the playoffs. It's the ones that make a lot of contact on hittable pitches in zone.
But Kyle, what are your goals in this hitting coaching job? Like, what? Obviously, I know you want to get to the big leagues, but like, do you have a timeline set? Do you have an idea?
No,
I think Kyle might be frozen.
you guys hear me? I heard you.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
hear you now.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
we're battling hotel Wi-Fi and some other things, but
Ah,
there's no timeline. The thing with me is
Good
I think the thing that you hear me?
yeah.
One of us is delayed. Okay. The thing with me is there's a lot of different things I can do. I don't have one specific lane that's like my thing. I don't feel like I'm a specialist in any one thing. Whereas if you're the best hitting coach, you're the best pitching coach, you understand this facet of the game, like you've got a PhD in it, you're obsessed. Those types of coaches or just minds in baseball seem to shoot out really fast, deservingly so. I don't consider myself one of those. There's still things as a coach I want to get better at, with more of like connecting with players and leadership and controlling emotions and having better conversations with guys. Also being able to coordinate between other staff members. Like there's other things besides just hitting technique that I want to improve with. It's part of the reason I chose to go to Fayetteville instead of a higher level, was because this is a better opportunity for me to sharpen those skills. So with that approach, it's not a quick like, hey, I'm in high A, and then he's the best, go to double A, and then next thing you know, like 3 years later in the big leagues. Like that's happened before. I don't foresee that for myself. I don't know. It's something Dwayne and I have talked about quite a bit, as far as like about me. This is like, what is the next thing? I tend to search for the thing that's the better challenge, or after a certain experience, I'll like, what am I going to become from that? So like the path I've taken's not been straight up, or like up the elevator. It's been more of side to side, but so I don't really have an answer. And I would say the same thing to you if we weren't recording.
No, listen, but I say it too often, Kyle, and you and Dwayne.
Hopefully.
All right, I'm back again. Well, listen, like I was saying to you guys, I think you guys be great. You'd be great mentors and leaders, and all the levels you guys have played, coached at, understand how kids work. I think you guys deserve to have your own program. I think, college baseball paying a lot of money these days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's would be a wonderful back end to the career fantasy kind of thing, where me, Dwayne, and I have another like friend or two in mind that we'd all love to coach together. But yeah, it really just depends on like location and situation and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, 100% right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Listen. A lot of guys. Today, I think there's a certain dynamic that needs to be that needs leadership skills that will make kids want to play baseball and get their education and learn and grow as people, as baseball players. I think that you guys have those innate skills that will make a college baseball team a lot of fun for some kids. I think that's just my opinion.
Well, like you said earlier, there is a portion of it that is about enjoying the game and having fun, and I think that's something that I have not lost sight of. It
Oh,
really has to be an enjoyable experience.
yeah, no, listen, I totally understand. I totally agree. Dwayne, what you're at St. Joe's now? Like, how are you experiencing like the transfer portal? Like, I'm getting a lot of text messages. This guy's going on transfer portal. This guy's going on transfer portal. Like, how does that impact you at St. Joe's as a coach? And when you recruit, like, are you bringing in freshmen? Or are you getting guys that were battle tested already?
I mean that's a really good question. I think it's a conditional thing. Like for example, the last couple of years we've had a pretty mature roster, guys with experience that filled the shoes of the players before them very well. Guys that were, I guess, sort of homegrown, so to speak. Um, Picked up. It's it's really conditional of the school as well. Like we're working with a program that I believe has a very good system in the baseball program. I think that nobody does it better than Tom Caputo as far as being the head coach of a program. But we are working with what the school has to provide as well academically. Being a commuter school does impact recruiting. Being a school that has, I wouldn't say limited programs, but is limited to the programs that are available academically also impacts the recruiting. I had a discussion with a parent of a kid who wound up going in another direction, and they were just pretty much saying that the reasoning was nothing to do with baseball. So we're dealing with that as well. We don't like to use that as an excuse, but it is just part of what we have going on. As far as transfers from us, it's the same thing as recruiting from guys out of high school. So we do need to make sure that our high school recruiting is up to date because we cannot particularly be reliant on transfers, being a commuter school and having the academic programs that we have. But it's if it's something that fits, it's something that fits. But I do think that regardless of a transfer student or a freshman that comes into our program, I think that we do a pretty good job of recruiting the right people. That whether they impact the team on the field or not, it is a pleasure to work with all of the guys that I've worked with at St. Joe's thus far.
No, I mean I went to a couple of games. Your kids are having a lot of fun. I listen. I always say all the time, if you want to play college baseball and you think you're good enough, you go play. Like, don't go to a Division 1 or 2 and sit the bench. Just listen. Every college team needs bench players. Let's face it, right? Every team needs bench players. You're not getting a team with 10 guys, 11 guys, and 8 pitchers. So somebody's got to sit the bench, but don't overshoot your expectations. I think, uh, it's just like Ryan Hines. I love going back to Ryan Hines because he's such a great competitor. Ryan found his great niche at Malloy. I think he might have won 20 games at Malloy in his 4 years at there. I think Ryan did a great job finding the right home for him. What do you think about that, Kyle? What do you think about that for Ryan?
Yeah, when I said earlier that he came out of nowhere, I just meant in the sense that like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was one of our pitchers. I couldn't remember if he was the first guy of the pen or he'd start sometimes. But by the time the playoffs hit, like he threw extremely well. He would go 6 innings, complete game, give up like 2-3 hits, maybe a run when we needed it. There was a
right,
couple games where we weren't scoring, and like as Lou was talking about all the homers, but like there was a game or two where we scored a run, maybe two, and those are the games he pitched, and like we won those games because of him. And then when I found he was going to Malloy, I was like, okay, like good. He'll be, I don't know what he is now, but at the time he was like an 80-84 kind of lefty pitcher that had some command. So it was like perfect. Like I'm good for him. So I'm glad to hear that he's had a good career thus far. Lou, to your point earlier, actually, I was thinking when you were talking that we had Jeff
Kyle,
Bagwell is one of our like special advisors. You guys hear me?
yeah,
you
yeah,
were
yeah, yeah,
frozen
yeah, yeah.
for a sec. You're good
Okay.
though.
Okay. Jeff Bagwell's one of our advisors, and he was in town this past week, and he told our manager, he was like when I come in, like I'm not looking to watch two games and to see if someone can hit or not, or to see if like is this guy can he really play shortstop. He's like I'm not showing up for 3 days to see that. He's like I'm coming in, I'm looking to see like what's the vibe like in the clubhouse. Are the American and the Latin guys like talking with each other? Are guys upbeat? Um, like is there a clear issue going on with like how a player's acting? Is there someone that's standing out really positively? He's like if all of those things, if the environment's good, then player development happens. But it's like you could have the best this or that in coaching or in strategy or the practice plan we're doing, but like if the vibes aren't good, and to your guys' point, like if guys aren't having fun enjoying it, then like it's a waste.
Well, Jeff Bagwell was a great soccer goalie. He was an All-American soccer goalie at Xavier High School in Middletown, Connecticut, before he went to the University of Hartford. He was a great soccer goalie, great athlete, and it's good to see that Jeff's still involved there. Kyle, do you remember Coach Gooley would come down from Quinnipiac and work the clinics? Were you there when
Yeah,
Dan
I remember
Gooley
him.
came down? Well, Dan
I think
coached him
he
at the
was still
University of
coaching there
Hartford.
when I think when we played Quinnipiac when I was at Buffalo, I think he
Yeah,
was still there.
yes, Dan Gooley, yes, and he's still coaching. He's not coaching, but he's a director of baseball operations at Quinnipiac. And it's funny that Jeff Bagwell's still involved. He's got to be close to 60 years old.
Yeah, I think he's late 50s, and no, he's I don't know the exact dynamics, but he answers to our owner mainly, maybe the GM,
Of course,
but he's no, he's talk about influence. So really impressive. It's cool
he's
when he
not really
comes around.
he's not really a big guy. He's not really a big guy. He's like 5'8", 5'9", isn't he?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, no,
Um,
no, great, no, it's unbelievable, unbelievable. But Kyle, are you like this minor league schedule where you're 6 days home, 6 days on the road? Are they still doing that?
yeah, still doing that. I never experienced it when it was just a 3 or 4 game series. Um, I prefer this a lot more. Like, yeah, it could get a little bit stale playing the same team, but not traveling every couple days and having a like deliberate off day that's consistent is good. It's easier, frankly, on the coaches to not have to prepare for an entire opposing team every couple days. It's just like
Right.
once a week. So um, the only downside is the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games don't typically draw a lot of fans just because like the team's in town all week and the weekends are more convenient. Uh, us
Sure.
and then everywhere else we play seems to do pretty well on the weekends, like Friday or Saturday, especially if they do like fireworks, some sort of event going on. But then like sometimes the Tuesday, Wednesday games are pretty light. Whereas if it was like a new team, I guess that would be a little uh you have some like one-offs, but no, it's been good. I can't imagine finishing a game at like a Thursday night, getting on a bus at 10 and then driving 6 hours to play the next day. It's can't
Well,
imagine that.
what the Carolina Leagues have a lot of long trips, do they? It's pretty basically
There's
six,
two
7 hour bus rides, right?
at most, yeah. There's two. There's a North and a South division. They have us in the North
Yeah.
division, which they changed that recently. So we'll go up to like Maryland is the furthest one, but for the most part, they're 2 to 4, most of them. So and it's
That's
it's
not
once a
bad. That
week.
makes
So yeah, like you leave Tuesday morning
that
almost
makes life easy.
always, yeah. Show up, play, and then leave Sunday afternoon or evening, and then you're back.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you like it better than the Dominican, Kyle? Do you like it better than the Dominican Summer League? Do you like it better?
The Dominican Summer League is a special place for a lot of reasons.
Right.
The Dominican year was more impactful for me. I mean, this is more enjoyable, but it's a higher level, um, with more responsibility, and the environment's way better. Just like the playing environment's way better. You're playing in front of 4 or 5 thousand people some nights, so it's really exciting. The
That's
DSL is
that's
like the way I describe it to people. It's like watching it's like watching 11 or 12U baseball, but with like Division One commit bodies. So like you'll watch the
Wow, that's
shortstop who
exciting.
doesn't know where to go for the cutoff. The left fielder like takes a terrible route to it, picks it up, launches it 93 miles an hour to the shortstop who's nowhere near where he's supposed to be. The shortstop doesn't catch it, picks it up, throws it into the backstop. They're like everyone's yelling, and it's just it's like all tools and no no baseball knowledge.
All right, that's what you're there
But
for, right? That's what you're there
yeah,
for. Hey, Dwayne, did you ever hear Kyle? The interesting, I always say to great competitors, remember all the little things. Did Kyle ever tell you about the time he met Jeremy Pena? Kyle, tell Dwayne this. Did you ever tell Dwayne that story? I find that one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard as far as professional baseball player
yeah.
goes.
So this was the fall of 2020. Jeremy he probably would have played in Double A that year, but it was COVID. So the year prior, so in 2019, the year before that, he was in High A. So the point is, he was still a minor leaguer with us. We knew how good of a shortstop he was. The question throughout his whole minor league career was, would he be able to hit? And it was the sort of thing where everyone kept saying no because of this, no because of this, and every time he went up a level, he would figure it out. But anyway, so I met him along with all of our other position players that were there, and you had mentioned, because like you knew of him already, and then I started working there. So you're like, oh, you gotta say hi to Jeremy Pena. You gotta say hi to Jeremy Pena. So I went and
Yeah.
like introduced myself, and I was like, oh, Lou Petrucci, and I was like, I think you guys in Connecticut and summer ball cross paths. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. He would come to some of the games, and I was like, what league was that? And he said the NECBL. I was like, what year were you playing? And he said that was 2016, which was the year that I played in that. So I was like, oh yeah, like that was my going into my 5th year. That was after his freshman summer. And then so he's like, oh yeah, like he's like, what team? So we figured out what teams we played for, and he's like, oh, I remember the game I played you guys. Like I had like 2 or 3 hits, and they put my they did like an article for me, and they I have a picture from that they put in the newspaper. So I was like, oh cool, like so he shows me the picture, and it's him playing shortstop, and I look and I'm like, that's me running at second. So, and I was like, send me the picture. So he sent me the photo. The photos of him, I just happened to be running at second. And I was like, whoa. So, but he remembered.
It was
He
a
didn't.
color photo. Color photo,
Yeah.
Dwayne. Color photo for Kyle Brennan.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
you play. I think
That's
you
one
play
he's
for the.
gonna
I think you
post.
play for the Keen. I think you play for the Keen Swamp Bats. I think, right?
Me?
The Keen Swamp Bats.
No, it was North Adams.
Oh,
But
Northern Essex.
North Adams
Crazy.
Steeplecats. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, North Adams Battle Cats, right? Is that what they were?
the Steeplecats from the
People Cats. Wow,
yeah.
that's some good stuff. Dwayne. The funny thing is, my good friend Nick Durba coached Jeremy Pena at the University of Maine, and me in my nothing to do time, I would go watch. I like to go watch BP, and I head up to Stony Brook. I'm watching BP, and I'm watching the shortstop. I said, "Holy cow!" Said Nick Durba. Nick, who the hell is that? And it was Jeremy Pena. Got drafted out of high school
Yeah,
from Rhode Island, and it was so exciting to watch. His progression through the minor leagues, through college, and him being an MVP of the ALCS, ALDS, and the World Series all in the same year. It's just amazing to me. And then Kyle meets him, and he's really a humble guy. Really, really very humble. Really, really excited to see his progression in baseball.
yeah. I heard he was an excellent through every level that he's played at. I remember Mark talking to me about him when Mark played against him, and Mark was over at
Sure.
Albany.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. How is Mark doing? I haven't seen him at all.
He's doing well, man. He's cracking a bunch of lessons. He's doing really well. He's enjoying it.
Thanks so much for being on. This was a blast.
Yeah,
Guys,
we gotta have you on again, man. We gotta
guys,
have you on
thank you
again
so much.
soon.
You know what we gotta do? We gotta get Ben on one of these. You know what I mean? We gotta get Ben on one of these. I
Love
think
that.
because Ben Ben is is offering such a different perspective because I think of all the people that make it to the pros, Kyle, that we know personally, that I know, you probably know more than me, but there's no more 33rd round. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No.
And the fact that Ben was 17 years old, Kyle, and I told all the scouts, I said, Dwayne, you love this, and Kyle loves. I called Ben the White Dominican because he was 17 years old. You remember now, Kyle, Dwayne, Ben's mother had to go down to Fort Lauderdale or St. Petersburg and sign his contract because he was underage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ben pitched a whole year in the Gulf Coast League as a 17-year-old, right? So like Ben, Ben's meteoric rise to the big leagues. It's been a great thing for me to watch. I know Kyle, you've caught so many big leaguers. It's unbelievable. And Dwayne, you probably caught a lot of guys too. But I think that watching the guys that we know, like Logan O'Hoppe, watching Logan and watching Ben, Anthony Kay, Matzy, it makes baseball so much more fun. And watching you, Kyle, in your progression, and Dwayne coaching college baseball, and not letting Tom Capito take my $300, let Luke hit. I think it's kind of bad. You know what I mean?